At 55?
What? Oh, shut up. I did say a little early.
That's true, that's true.
Potentially early.
Potentially early.
Potentially early.
Potentially early.
I got a YouTube notification. I wonder what that was.
Oh my god, oh my god.
I wonder what that
Who
was.
is it? Cooling Rosa is live?
Cooling Rosa is live!
God.
Holy crap, guys.
Let me grab my headset. Make sure.
Yeah, you probably need that. Hello, hello, chat. Gonna wait for a couple more people to get in here, as I usually do, and then we'll give like the warning, and then I'll tell y'all what this is about. Hello, Mint. Hello, Strawberry. Hello, Miracle Wizard. Hello, IDK. Anymore. Hello, your local goat, Bari. Hello, Fresh Sands, my beloved. Hello, Glitchy Error. Hello, Scholarly Storyteller. I have a question. What's up, Gino Sands, right there? Time for drama. Hello, Grey Shadow. Hi, Tired Toby. But you're about to start streaming. You just gave me an excuse to delay it. Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't want to edit. I get that. Me neither. Me neither. Frantically opening our app to draw Ftfo. Cooling Rosa live? I sure hope this isn't a scary chapter. No, not at all. No.
Guys, everyone's gonna hug and everyone's gonna be so happy.
Oh my god, it's gonna be so happy. It's gonna be such a happy chapter. Can you go check the volume levels?
Audio sounds good.
Chat, let me know if I sound too quiet. I'm gonna try to lift the gain up on my mic.
It sounds good.
Thank you, Neil. Can you explain the stripe thing, like, on the clothes? So, in Roseverse, this is not like this for every single multiverse, but, monsters or children under 18 years old wear a certain amount of stripes that dictate how old they are. I can't remember off the top of my head, like, the exact ages. I would have to pull up my document that I got. But toddler level is, like, 3 stripes. Kind of like elementary school to, like, just starting middle school is, like, 2 stripes. And then high school level is 1 stripe. And then once you turn 18, you age out of the system. It's done for, like, fel AUs. To, like, keep children from getting hurt. You do not attack you don't attack 3 stripes because they're toddlers. And even in the worst AUs, they're too innocent to reasonably hurt. So, yeah, I'm gonna turn myself up a bit more. Because I'm always quiet for some reason. I don't know why.
Maybe you, like, are you far away from your mic?
Not really.
Do you travel away from it? Sometimes I find myself, like, slowly backing away.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be all the way quiet, like, all the time. Oh, okay. I almost timed someone out on accident. Oopsie. You know what, Rosa? Can I edit your best stream moments? I would love that. The animation definitely doesn't mean anything to this chapter. No. Had a worm this morning. For real. Grey Shadow, the love of my life, was thrown in the trash. Just told my brother to be quiet. Just read this chapter yesterday. Rosa, I just read the new Roseverse chapter today. It was good, but I nearly cried. That's amazing. I'm so glad. I really am glad that I almost made you cry. That's what I like to do. Where can I send them? You can either send them to me through, like, the Tumblr. I don't know if you can submit videos on Tumblr. You can upload it on YouTube and tag me. You could upload it on... Yeah. On YouTube. Best stream moment? Would love that.
We're getting our YouTube compilations?
I don't know what 23 p.m. means. Because I don't use military time.
Isn't it just, like, 11?
My IRL.
Unless I'm wrong.
I need to show you what my IRL just sent me, Beetle.
I'm scared.
Because their status right now is dark woke.
Oh.
And I had no context to what this was. until now, and they just sent this to me. They're like, I found it. I was like, what did you find? They're like, I found the tweet.
The tweet. Oh, this is excellent.
I know.
That's like Walmart shenanigans.
That
too.
is so funny. Oh my god. Okay. We're at 14 viewers. I feel like I can start talking now. Or should I wait to do the explanation? Should I wait another like 3 minutes, chat? What do you think? Been waiting for this stream all day. I'm so excited. Yay! I'm so excited too. I'm nervous.
I'm scared.
I don't want to yell because it's like also I do it late at night, so like my roommates are like really hard sleepers. So like when I'm yelling, it doesn't wake them up, but it's like the middle of the day.
Now you're like conscious of.
I know. I'm like, damn, I'm awake and I'm not tired, so I'm like scared. Alert! Alert! Story time, guys! It's story time. The gang's all here. Okay. So I know when Rosa streams. I have a schedule set for streams. Aww! I can't wait to hear the silliest and whimsical chapter next. Okay.
Right?
So, I might as well just start talking. So today is going to be a very special day, because this is not the only stream we're doing today. The reason why we're doing it so early is because Morgan, if you've watched my pilot, the voice actor for Error, really wants me to stream him playing Poppy Playtime. Because that's been a thing that I've been wanting to do with him for a very long time. I've been waiting for so long for Poppy Playtime to drop. I'm not a huge fan of it. I actually kind of think the story's shit. But it's like one of those like guilty pleasures I have, you know what I mean? Where it's like I really like it. And so I was begging Morgs for like the longest time when it was like first announced. I was like, Morgs, please play it so I can watch you and we can bond over it. And he was like, okay, Rosa Cooling. But I want to stream it on Saturday. And I was like, well, we already have a stream on Saturday. And he was like, well, we need to figure this out because I'm not going to do it unless we're streaming it. And I was like, okay, Morgan. So we figured it out. So we're doing this stream a bit earlier. We're probably going to try to just shoot for 3 chapters because I want to get this done by 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Central Time. And, you know, we're going to end this stream, take like a 30-minute break so people can rewatch this stream without having to worry about Poppy Playtime at the end. And they could just rewatch Ftfo, and if they don't want to stick around for the next one, they don't have to. But then we're gonna come back, all set up for the Poppy Playtime stream, and I'm gonna be streaming Morgan playing Poppy Playtime. And a lot of the Roseverse, like the Rose Gang members might be there. KJ might pop up. Beetle's definitely gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. My girlfriend might be there. I think I can convince Veremus to go. Basically, yeah, Remus, Noel might be there, Top might be there, so a lot of people are going to be there while we were watching it. We've been avoiding spoilers, so, you know, this is not what this stream is about, but I'm just letting everyone know. So it's going to be a big day today. A lot of streaming. In total, if I do the right math, I think I'm going to be probably streaming for like 8 hours today. So, yeah, that 30-minute break's gonna be really fun. I mean, I don't really have to do anything when he's playing the game, so. And also, in that stream, while he's playing it, because he has to solve puzzles and stuff, it will basically also kind of be like a Q&A, in a way. I'm thinking of, like, maybe trying to do, like, another, like, screen of, like, me drawing as well. So it's, like, you have, like, the game, and then you have, like, at the bottom me drawing. But I think that's gonna be too much. I think it's gonna overwhelm people. So so if you have any like questions or Q&A stuff, a lot of people will be there and I'll be available for questions. I'm probably gonna be tired, but I'll be available for questions. So it's gonna be like just a like fun stream for Poppy Playtime. Chapter 4 is what it is, I think.
Air Sans plays Poppy Playtime with Roseverse commentary.
Yes. Yes. Maybe I should make that the title. Air Sans plays Poppy Playtime. Yeah.
I'm just so chock full of ideas.
You're just such a brilliant person.
I know.
So I'll give the proper warnings for the Poppy Playtime stream when we're doing that stream. There's no point in doing it now. Obviously, there's gonna be like blood and stuff, so. But we don't need to worry about that, because that's what we're doing here. The warnings for this stream. Okay, let's get started with that. That out of the way. Hi, welcome to this stream. We have a couple of new people that probably don't really know what this stream is. This is an Ftfo stream, or For the Forgotten Ones, where me and my friend Beetle go and read For the Forgotten Ones, which is an Undertale fanfiction from I'm_sorry_buddy. I started this because I'm making a long video about Ftfo, and I wanted my viewers to kind of know about it before getting into it. So what we do is we sit here and we read the chapters every Saturday or Friday, depending on like availability. Usually around like 8 p.m., but we have to do it early this time. We'll read like 4 to 3 chapters each time, and we'll switch off reading each chapter. And so yeah. The trigger warnings for this chapter specifically that's coming up, it is very brutal. It's not the most brutal chapter of the fic, but it's very brutal. There's going to be physical abuse. Actually, I think Buddy has trigger warnings on this. By the way, I talked to Buddy like through the comments, and they said we have permission to do this, and they're like, thinks it's really cool. But they also said recently that if you're planning on making your own audiobook of Ftfo, they're not really down for it, because a lot of people on like who are making podfics nowadays off of other platforms are using AI to use it, so it makes them uncomfortable. So I asked them about it. You just have to make sure you get their permission, but they're not the most comfortable with it now. But since this is like a live reading, and it's not like an official like reading of Ftfo, they're not really minding it, because we can't really use AI when we're live. Like, we're reading it for 4 hours or 6 hours for so long. So okay, so the chapter warnings for this is physical, verbal, and emotional abuse, manipulation, victim blaming, violence, blood, injury, panic attacks, psychological torture. It's brutal. It's brutal. Where did you ask them? I asked them in the comment section of their fic. It should be on chapter 50, the latest comment, because I gave them fan art. So, if you want to go check on that. Beetle's just like silent listening to me ramble. Beetle's like, yes, girl, get it.
Be that content creator. Yes!
I'm so proud of you.
I'm mentally preparing for what I'm gonna listen to today.
Yeah, me too. I have to read it. I'm not ready for this.
Damn.
Okay.
Yes, girl, go get your coin. Doodler's being silly.
Scary chapter. Oh, is Doodler in the Discord?
Yeah.
No mic. I love you, Doodler. Doodler is my little brother, by the way. Okay. I once again am asking if I can hug these characters. Yes, I'm pretty sure Buddy even answered a question like that on their comments before, because they're just like, yeah, they need it. Yippee Doodler. Okay. Enough dilly-dallying.
Dilly-dallying.
So, I won't be able to really look at chat much when I'm reading. If you have any questions about Roseverse or where to find the fic or anything like that, Beetle will be answering the questions, and when they're reading, I will do the same. Just so you know. We also make jokes throughout the chapter, so just so you know, we might be doing that a lot to cope.
We're gonna be so unserious.
Oh, I know. Chapter 28. Corrupted. I'm gonna get a drink of water, actually, first. I'm scared. Oh, I know. They're so sweet. Okay. Despite his resolve, Ink's sleep was rather fitful. He did not remember what he dreamed about, but he woke up choking on a scream. Something soft nuzzled the side of his skull, and he turned his head to see Terror halfway on his pillow. The large cat blinked his eye and affectionately butted his head against Ink's before he retreated through the cat flap. A moment later, Blot clambered through and chose to perch on Ink's sternum, purring. Ink absently brushed his fingers through the cat's fluffy fur, focusing on the texture and the warm weight he provided, and closed his eye sockets. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water already.
Starting off strong.
Yeah, I know. You're okay. He whispered the phrase a few more times to himself. The audible comfort helped, and Ink got up. Blot followed him around his room and tried to see if he could fit in one of Ink's arc boots. It turned out he could. Ink was left staring at the happy ball of fluff that had taken up residence in his left shoe and was determined not to leave. I need that, Ink pointed out. Blot meowed. He wiggled and turned around, blinking innocently up at Ink with his big green eyes. Ink squinted suspiciously. Are you stuck? Blot's next meow was rather plaintive and dramatic. Ink ended up carrying his left boot downstairs. He rather liked the feeling of the floor beneath his bare foot, but he knew it probably wasn't practical to run around like that. He could wear his shield boots, but he was not ready to risk mixing up his outfits just yet. The brown scarf was risky enough, even though he only had the hood attached when he wasn't wearing his arc or shield uniforms. Done. Kitty! Kitty! Oh shit. Okay, wait. Chino's puzzled expression cleared up when he heard happy meowing from Ink's boot. He gave an undignified snort, then leaned on the counter, wheezing as he laughed. The Undying that was waiting at the counter saw what was going on and gave a hearty cackle of her own. The moment Ink laid eyes on her, he knew she was a fell Undying, but not an original kind. Ink identified her as a judge and captain of the royal guard of her former homeworld, considering it had been destroyed by error. The charred mark from her world was already on Ink's bones. He wondered when he had seen someone else from her alternate universe. It was probably a market tale. Ink's nerves flared up when Judge Fell Undying approached him, but her focus was on the small fluffy tail that peeked out of the boot Ink carried. Blot had gotten himself turned around, but he did not seem to mind as his tail wiggled happily in the air. So that's where Blot went. Usually he runs up to greet me, and try to trip me. Judge Fell Undying grinned down at Ink. You can probably coax him out with a treat if you want him to stop holding your shoe hostage. It felt like Ink's soul was sprinting a marathon in his ribcage. He reminded himself that this was not Hortel Undying, and there was no reason to be nervous around every single Undying he saw. She had no reason to hurt him. He hoped he did not look too anxious as he tried to smile back. Okay, thanks. Judge Fell Undying considered him thoughtfully, and Ink was coldly reminded of the judge part of her nickname and role. Judges had a knack for seeing through people and interpreting expressions. Ink wondered what she saw in his. He wished he had his mask on, and felt foolish for even thinking it, considering that Ark was wanted by the Omega Timeline. Judge Fell Undying was from the Omega Timeline now, most likely. To his surprise, she merely nodded cordially and went to a table. She must be waiting for a couple people, considering she took one with 3 other chairs instead of one of the individual seats. Imagine she wasn't, she's just being a dick. Ink approached Gino, who had already grabbed a treat from behind the counter. He placed his boot on a platform of the cat tree so Blot could climb out. You could grab him to get him out, Gino commented. It wouldn't be the first time. He waved the treat over the opening of the boot. A small paw tried to bat at it, but Gino held it further away to tempt Blot. I'd rather not grab him like that. Ink declined. I had a feeling. Gino gave Ink a knowing look. By the way, Midnight's doing a lot better this morning. Even with his lingering discomfort, Ink couldn't regret what he had done. Good. Gino's smile was soft. He coaxed Blot out of the boot, and Ink put it on before the small cat could try to claim it again. The wide legs of his pleated brown pants went down to his feet, covering all but the bottom portion and toes of his boots. Blot meowed unhappily at him, batting at his leg, but soon went over to Vex and curled up beside him. Would you like something to eat before you go? Gino asked. Ink felt the usual burst of nerves, wondering if he was expected to, before he calmed down. He kept his voice low. It's not because I, helped Midnight out, right? No, Gino affirmed. You just look like you need it. Ink awkwardly accepted a cinnamon muffin. He was about to sneak out of an isolated seat when the door chimed softly, indicating that someone else was coming in. Ink spotted black and red armor and froze in place. The new customer saw him the same moment and froze as well. Ink stared at Edge. Edge stared at Ink. They then proceeded to stare at anything except each other. Oi, why'd you stop? Red peeked around his brother, grumbling to himself, and caught sight of Ink. The last and only time Ink saw Red was after Horror was stabbed by Blue in Outertail, and he was Ark. Ink forced himself not to pull out his scarf or hood. Could he have one day where he did not run into someone? Just one! Or maybe half a day? Even half a day would be great. Please and thank you. Red kept staring, and Ink tried not to panic. Many tended to forget that Red was a judge in his world before it was destroyed, and was one of the most powerful monsters in Underfell. He had the abilities many Sanses did, and although he was more on the tired side than on the violent side, he certainly despised the gang after all this time. Had he recognized Ink as Ark? Was the brown hood too much of an indicator, even with its green interior? Or had something else about Ink's demeanor revealed him? Ink needed to move, or do something, because standing there like an idiot was just going to draw more attention to himself. Edge moved before Ink could. To Ink's complete and utter shock, the tall, fell skeleton knelt and hugged him. I didn't expect to run into you again. I'm happy you are still safe. What? Red looked just as shocked as Ink felt. Please don't tell anyone where I am, Ink blurted before he could think about what he was saying. Edge looked rather offended by the notion. What do you take me for? Ink smiled sheepishly. Sorry, Edge. Wait, you two know each other then? Judge Felundyne had risen from her seat, a big grin on her face. Edge, invite your friend over then. She had been waiting for the Fell brothers. Ink hoped that no one else was expected to fill a fourth seat at their table. My name is Ink, he said awkwardly, because of course he continued his descent towards the edge of a cliff. On the one hand, he could not be known as Ark here. On the other, he just told them his real name. Ink resigned himself to whatever kind of negative reaction Nightmare would have when he reappeared. Even if Nightmare reappeared as himself, he would not be happy. At this point, every sane person that Ink meets just adopts him. That is so real. Edge nodded a little in acknowledgement, and Ink was torn between feeling relieved and wishing his ability to keep his mouth shut would start working again. Do you have a time to talk, or is there some place you need to be, Ink? Edge was giving him an out. Ink didn't take it. If he left, Edge would be forced to come up with a story of how they met without him present. It could only end in disaster. Ink awkwardly followed Edge to Judge Felundyne's table, while Red approached the counter. He chose a seat that let him have his back to the wall next to Undying, and Edge sat across from him. That left the chair next to him for Red. Ink focused his hearing on the monster at the counter, just in case. You got my order, C? Red asked. It's just about ready, Gino assured him. That'll be 500G. Red handed some gold over. Almost masked by the general background noise and conversation, Ink heard his soft question. He's a starlight, ain't he? Gino smiled warmly at him. Here's your change. Red accepted the gold. Got it. Thanks. Ink, this is Judge Felundyne of the Omega Timeline, Edge introduced. Just call me Judge here, she drawled. Her grin was sharp, but that was to be expected from Undying's. She was not the Undying that stabbed Ink through the chest, hurt Paprika, and tormented Killer. As long as she did not summon her spears, Ink could keep his cool. Hopefully, Edge did not seem too worried about her meeting Ink, so he tried to make himself relax. Hello. It's nice to meet you. Edge looked to Edge. Ink looked to Edge. Edge looked at himself, guys. Ink looked to Edge and tried not to fidget. Are any of your other friends coming? No, just us today, Edge replied. That meant Dr. Felgaster would not pop in for a cup of coffee. An unfortunate event that would be just Ink's luck at this point. Good. He did not want to meet Red and Edge's father. Not after what his alternate did to Prism, and what this multiverse's own version could potentially do to him. Dr. Fell had to be one of the scientists that had spied on Prism. Could he also be the reason Fresh did not consider the Omega Timeline good allies anymore? Ink tried to tell himself he was being paranoid, but it wasn't working very well. Although his thoughts remained troubled, Ink's smile relaxed. Okay. Red returned and plopped into the seat next to Ink. So, how'd you meet my bro? At the Undertop Circus, Edge said honestly, which Ink supposed was a good thing. Ink ran into a spot of trouble, so Top and I assisted him. That was one way to put stabbed him in the leg, took him out of a snowstorm so he would not die, restrained him to a table in Top's workshop, and helped him covertly contact the Star Sanses, but Ink wasn't about to argue. He did not understand why Edge wasn't angrier about him being here. Edge was nice, but he knew Ink was Ark, a member of Nightmare's gang. Shouldn't he be more defensive? Red's red eye lights brightened. Is that why you hung back for so long? Perhaps, Edge grumbled, neither confirming nor denying it. You know you can tell me anything, Red said lowly. Ink stared hard at his muffin, which sat on a small plate in front of him. He had not taken a bite yet, or even unwrapped the paper thingy around it. He remembered that Horror said that he wasn't supposed to eat the paper thingy on muffins and cupcakes. Ink noticed his hands were shaking, so he hid them under the table, which left him still not eating the muffin. Oops. Edge's voice was clipped. Ink's living situation is not your business. Red's intense expression faltered, then faded away. Right. Sorry. It took Ink a moment to understand the apology was for him as well. He relaxed further and nodded. Okay, with that hurdle out of the way, what did people who were not really friends talk about in non-life-threatening situations? He had to be careful with his questions, because there were things he did not want to answer himself. So how do you know each other? Judging you two, I mean. Oh wait, I did the wrong voice. Fuck! So how do you two know each other? Judging you two, I mean. That was a safe enough question, right? Edge is a guard at the Omega Timeline Council building, Judge told him. Alright, so maybe the topic was not as safe as Ink hoped. It was too late to back out now. Are you a guard too? Nah, Judge bared her teeth in a grin. Council member. Oh, she was part of the Omega Timeline Council. Wonderful! Great! Fantastic! Ink hastily took a bite of muffin, avoiding the paper, and hummed in acknowledgement. Well, it was good to see his Ark disguise had served his purpose. Judge chuckled. Don't look so nervous. I don't see it as a sign of status like Emperor Metaton. There's an Emperor Metaton on the council? Ink questioned hesitantly. Judge nodded. He's a dick. Ink laughed and nearly choked on his muffin as he inhaled a piece. He coughed, and Edge shoved a drink in his face. Ink took the drink without thinking and sipped it, clearing his throat. He held it back out to Edge, and it was only then he realized what he had done. Ink flushed rainbow. Sorry. Oh my god! Java, get off of me! Okay. Sorry, I gotta pop up. Ink flushed rainbow, sorry. I can get another one, Edge dismissed. Ink poked at the drink with his straw. It was some type of icy coffee thingy. What is this? A Cinnescotch Frappy. It's good, Ink mentioned. He glanced at the menu on the wall. Hold on, I can pay you back for it. Edge stopped him from getting the gold from the small pouch hanging from his neck. It's fine. You need to save your money. Ink blinked at him in confusion, and couldn't stop a blinding smile from blooming across his face. Thank you for being so nice. Edge grumbled and tucked his chin into the collar of his scarf. Still smiling, Ink turned back into Red and Judge's quiet conversation and immediately wished he hadn't. I'm just saying, you know how they, especially Killer, like to target fell monsters, Judge was saying lowly. No one's seen Nightmare's gang for weeks. It has the whole multiverse on edge. The council was worried they're planning something big. Ink sat there awkwardly, keeping silent as he thought. Our boss is missing, and half of us have spent the past weeks fighting for our lives. Our plan is to find the boss and preferably not die. Thanks. They might hate me, but I doubt they're planning my death, Red drawled. Judge gave him a glare, but Ink could tell it was more worried than annoyed. Maybe not, but you should still be careful. Killer almost killed you in Outertale. Ink could not stop a subtle flinch. It wasn't like he had forgotten what had happened, but Horror's injury had overshadowed Red's near death at Killer's hands. Edge gave him a worried look, but said nothing. Why was he worried? Shouldn't he be upset that Ink's teammate almost killed his brother? Red rolled his red eyelights. I'll be vigilant. Shit! Something dark landed on Red's head, and he swore loudly. He jumped out of his seat and pulled Glitch off his skull, glowering. The cat glared back. You, Red growled. Glitch hissed at him. Cat and skeleton monster glared at each other hatefully, caught in a standoff as both snarled. Oh, I love that their beef still translates to the cat in actual person. That is so funny. Judge casually sipped her drink. I don't know why that cat has it out for you, Red. Glitch spat angrily, clawed at Red's arm to free himself, and sped away to hide under the counter. Red glowered after him, rubbing his sleeve, and Ink scanned him for injury. Nothing came up. It seemed that Glitch's claws had not pierced the fabric of his coat. That thing is a menace, Red grumbled. Menace is over there, actually, Ink mentioned, pointing at a cat tree. Menace appeared to be sleeping with Blot on his back, and Vex curled up at his side. They were all rudely awoken as Soot shot into the main cafe and clambered up the cat tree. Lingo pranced after him and halted at the bottom, looking upward. Ink watched Soot huddle beside Menace and tentatively lift his paw as though he was trying to figure out how to put even more distance between himself and Lingo. The colorful cat simply sat on the floor and stared at him with his unnerving light pink eyes. Ink was beginning to understand why Gino had been tempted to name the cats after some Sanses throughout the multiverse. The stream glitched? Oh, I hope not. I don't need any streaming issues when I have such a large stream planning. Yeah, I hope not. Is it glitching really bad? Let me look. I gotta check my...
I don't see any glitches. I've been watching it this whole time.
Yeah, the stream hound says excellent.
Excellent!
It doesn't say that there was anything that popped up as like a... Because usually YouTube will tell me if there's a bad spike. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Like, yeah, your internet is ass.
Yeah, it'll tell me if it's like ass. I don't see that though. Okay. Back to it. Back to it.
Back to it.
Ink finished his muffin and rose to his feet. I have to go now. It was nice to meet you all. Thank you for giving me your drink, Edge, even if you didn't mean to. It is fine, Edge said dismissively. He hesitated, and his scowl lessened slightly. Take care of yourself. Ink nodded solemnly. Don't die. He left it at that, and took the long walk to an isolated area before opening a portal to Horrortale. He appeared right outside of Horror's room this time. Ink was about to knock when he heard rapid footsteps. Ink, Killer called him over quietly. Ink immediately abandoned his plan and scanned Killer for injuries as he hurried over to him. Damn. What's wrong? Killer shook his head and grabbed Ink's hand, pulling him down the hall. The small room Killer shoved his way into appeared to be some type of office. It had not been used in a while. The desk was covered with cobwebs and dust, and the bronze lamp on top the desk had a dingy, deteriorated color to it. Ink was careful not to inspect the dust too closely. This castle had been Undying's. It was best not to yeah, I said it right. It was best not to wonder what had been left in the grime. Ink's little ominous ass. Dude, he gets so freaky near the end of the fic. He's like so scary, dude. He's so like terrifying. Imagine seeing him in the dark just staring at you. Killer shut the door behind them and locked it before turning back to Ink. Despite their isolation, his voice remained low. Something is wrong with Cross. Ink wished he was surprised. Is it because he's trying to deal with how Error hurt him? Or do you think it's the activation codes again? Killer shrugged. The movement was short and violent, further emphasizing his agitation. I can't tell. But something's up. Cross keeps isolating himself. That's normal for us because, come on, we're us. But this feels different. He won't take his guard outfit off. Cross had been captured in his old guard outfit, but his replaced guard outfit also had several code protections set up by Ink. Add in Ink's inability to repair X-Tail, and Cross could very well be keeping that outfit on as some type of self-punishment for his failures. Did he feel he did not deserve to wear the Royal Guard uniform of his home anymore? Did he force himself to wear the guard outfit to remind himself of what happened with Error as another form of self-punishment? Or was it the opposite, and he felt safer in the guard outfit? It could even be a combination of factors. There are too many possibilities, and even Cross might not know the true answers. I can try to talk to him, Ink offered, but I'm not sure how open he'll be considering I couldn't do what he wanted. Ink struggled against an onslaught of guilt again, but broke through it. He could not help X-Tail, but he could still help Cross. He blames himself more than you, Killer said bluntly, but he's still off. I can't explain it. Ever since you healed me, I feel like I'm more awake, and Cross is making all these red flags pop up in my head. He clenched his teeth, and dark liquid dripped down his cheeks. It reminds me of back when my world's Frisk was first possessed by Kara. Before they started working together. His brow creased. Wait, did they ever? He violently shook his head. Doesn't matter now, never mind. Hearing him even mention something to do with his past, and his past before he tried something new at that, made dread pool in Ink's ribcage. If something is wrong, his codes show nothing. And if something isn't wrong in that way, I'm suspicious for nothing, and I'm just gonna hurt him. Killer grinned mockingly. That's nothing new. His hand slipped into his pocket, and he held out a token. Is there anything on here? I took the original token he had and swapped it for a new one that I personally set for Market-Tail. So that's what he did. Ink took the token and inspected it with his magic. He shook his head. I can't sense anything. The destination has faded. They'd do that, Killer confirmed. It'd be a bad idea if someone got hold of one and could break into the castle. Damn, I should have had you take a look earlier. Surely he would have done something when I went with him to Market-Tail, though, Ink wondered. It felt horrible to even think that about Cross, but he would definitely hate it even more if they didn't think about it, and something was indeed wrong. I don't know, Killer confessed, voice low and bitter. Maybe I'm just paranoid, but maybe I'm not. Dust already tried to confront him, but I just don't know. We'll figure this out too, Ink encouraged. Killer did not look happy. Just be cautious. I hate to lose you both. Ink briefly put a hand on his arm, smiling warmly, but gave no comment on that confession. They briefly returned to Horror's room. Ink peeked inside long enough to see Horror was okay. Killer took a seat, while Ink retreated to Killer and Dust's empty room to change into his arc outfit, removing the hood of his scarf and tucking the ends under his brown coat. He stopped and studied himself in the mirror, keeping his mask clipped to his belt, and brushed a hand over the front pocket of his satchel. They were planning to go to Dreamtale to see if Nightmare was there today. I should prepare the purified magic. Maybe it'll help. Ink sat on the chair beside the messy bed. That one was definitely dust, since it had several books piled on it, and took out the vial negativity magic and a syringe. He triple-checked it for sterilization and the presence of any contaminants before carefully drawing half of the shimmering purple and cyan-hued magic into the needle. He capped the needle before placing it back into a pocket at the front of the satchel. Dust. He's so me for real. With that done, Ink considered the small amount of negativity magic that remained. He had thought about getting a tranq gun of some sort. Of some sort in order to make a dart, but it would give him only one extra shot to inject Nightmare with the purified magic. He was more likely to miss, but the syringe required him to be much closer to Nightmare. What if he was prevented from reaching into his satchel in the first place? Just saying it right now, he should have gotten that tranq gun. But let's continue. Ink sighed, shoulders slumping as he stared at the vial in his hand. His gaze wandered up his arm and his sight focused on the remaining black snake on his left sleeve. He'd never created another snake after one of them was torn apart by error. They had done surprisingly well at holding him at bay in the anti-void. Ink sat up straighter and summoned the remaining snake. It lifted its head out of the fabric, taking a three-dimensional form, and flicked its tongue out. Ink studied the flat, toothless curve of its mouth and hesitantly held the vial negativity magic in front of the snake. It flicked its tongue, then stuck its head inside the vial. I forgot about this part. Is the snake just gonna eat it pulling Rosa. That is spoilers. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it is not. It's just the truth. He should have gotten it. Oh my gosh. As Ink watched, the purified negativity flowed upward, transferred into the shapes of two needle-like fangs as its black eyes shifted into a glowing purple hue with sighing ripples throughout. Once the process was done, the snake closed its mouth. Ink guided it back to his sleeve, and it sank into the fabric, losing its three-dimensional form again. Nothing looked different about it, except for the small dots that were its purple and sighing-swirled eyes. Ink created another snake to join its twin. They curled together on his sleeve, still and silent. Damn. I'm just realizing these snakes are fucking... Damn. They're reflections of Dream and Nightmare. Damn. Damn. Buddy, you strike again. You're a fucking genius. Damn it. Yeah. Will I even have the opportunity to get a sample of Dream's magic since Nightmare is absent? I mean, unless we need the supplies, why would we attack an AU? You didn't know? I didn't pick up on it! I didn't pick up on it! Leave me alone, chat! Leave me alone, leave me alone! I didn't pick up on it. I was just like, oh, they're snakes! It's just like how I didn't realize that the owl that Dust saves when he's, like, in the beginning chapters of, like, chapter 7 was a metaphor of, like, Ink's, like, in general existence, where he's like, oh, it's so small. I've realized that while reading. It's a metaphor, guys. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Are you supposed to be the essay writer? Listen, I just got excited about the snakes. I just like the metaphor of the snake. I just like snakes, guys. So I just got distracted by the snakes. I saw snakes and I got excited.
I'm sorry, I just went to get Arizona and my candy. Did I just hear you didn't know the snakes represented Dream and Nightmare?
No. I was just like, they're snakes!
You didn't think, wow, those snakes! They have a purpose in the story.
I was just really amazed by the snakes.
You know what, that's fair. I do love snakes. We love snakes here. Big snake lovers. However...
I didn't really think about the metaphors there. I was just happy that Ink had a pet.
Doodler's like, Rosa, are you serious? Rosa, you are in college. Or how are you in college? How are you in college?
I have picked up other metaphors in this fig. This is just the one metaphor that I missed.
It's a really important one, I feel. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Not really. It's like a little fun fact that they're supposed to represent Dream and Nightmare.
Autism, it's hard.
I just like the snakes.
I like snakes.
I just like the snakes.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I picked up on other metaphors.
I know other metaphors. Watch.
No. That's so sad. You're so mean to me. Okay, whatever. It hit Ink that the gang might get into a situation where they had to steal supplies from another alternate universe for Horrortail's sake. That was why Cross took a shipment to Horrortail after Outertail, even though Shield and Guard were available. The idea of having to face the Star Sands in that kind of situation somehow felt even worse than attacks that were meant to spread negativity. Probably because Ink knew Dream and Blue would want to help, it would maybe even give the gang the supplies they might need. They would if they knew why the gang was attacking anyway, but the Star Sands' history with the gang would not let a peaceful exchange happen. I'm gonna fix that. Ink remembered Fresh's implied threat and complete disbelief in Ink's hope to resolve things without violence and grimaced. At least, I'll try. Ink met back up with the others in Horror's room. As he entered, he heard Killer speaking. You should change. Oh my god. You should change, Cross. If the boss has lost it, he might not recognize you otherwise. Cross did not look happy about that request, or the possible reason for it. He had caught sight of Ink, and his expression pinched further. Ink spoke before he could really think about what he was saying. If you want, you can wear the purple cape under your coat like I wear my scarf. I can show you how to wrap it so it doesn't bunch up or get in the way. Cross balked. His mouth worked wordlessly, and he turned his head away. It makes me feel safer, okay? Killer was right. Ink could tell there was more to it than that. He did not press. Yet. There's no shame in that. Cross did not look at him. He left without another word, and when he came back, he was in his usual outfit. Ink could see a bit of the purple cape at his collar. He looked uncomfortable in his own clothes, glancing nervously around the room like he expected something to pop out of the shadows. Once again, Ink recalled that Nightmare and Cross had argued right before their boss vanished. If the worst had come to pass, Ink would need to take extra careful to keep him out of harm's way. The moment Cross stepped through the door, Dust shoved something in his face. Here. As Cross jumped and took the item, Dust held out his other hand to Ink. Ink opened his palm and watched Dust drop a transport token into it. Why is he rolling in these, dude? How does he have so many? His confused expression left it unnecessary to ask a question. Where is Dust getting these, dude? He is the secret rich kid. The boss can't code, but if he's corrupted, he might be able to stop you two from opening portals, Dust explained. We all have one of these on us. I set them to send us to Dusttale. Ink was not the only one to look to Dust in shock. Dust put his hands in his pocket and shrugged, pointedly not looking over his shoulder at Paps. Oh, he makes them. Okay, yeah, you're right. Dust explained. If the boss isn't doing well, we might have to make a break for it. And the boss... Oh my god. And if the boss really isn't doing well, he'll follow us. The anti-void is a no, Cross said immediately. Error will kill us. Except you, Ink. Was that supposed to sound comforting? Ink asked, only slightly sarcastic, and only mostly disturbed. Like I was saying, Dusttale is already dead. Dust interjected pragmatically. So true, Dust. So true. If the boss is corrupted enough to chase us, I'd rather go there than back to Horrortown. Horror crossed his arms, grabbing his sleeves so he would not scratch at his broken skull. Ink took Horror's hand and silently put the token in a pocket on his belt with his free one. He tapped a pattern on the back of Horror's hand and felt him slowly relax. Oh yeah, only you will survive and see all of us fucking die. Hope you feel better. XOXO. Do you think we're screwed? Killer blurted. If the boss is corrupted, what are we gonna do? And if he isn't corrupted, he'll be able to tell we're scared out of our minds. He'll also be able to tell we're worried about him and care for him, Ink argued. We're not giving up even if he is corrupted. I might be able to heal him, or at least help him regain himself. Killer looked at him uncertainly, fingers twitching like he wanted to reach up and rub at the area below his eye sockets. Ink did not know what Killer saw in his face, but whatever it was made his expression harden with resolve. I have something that might help. Killer reached into his own bag and pulled out a golden crown with a moon emblem. What is that? Cross asked, studying the circlet with a fascinated expression. Killer, what do you have with you? A smoothie?
A smoothie?
Bye, Gino.
Ow, my bones.
Oh, I heard that. Ew! Get away from the mic!
Sorry, that was my elbows. I didn't know my mic would pick that up.
Ew!
I'm sorry.
I hate hearing bones crack.
I'm sorry.
It's Nightmare's circlet, Killer confessed. From Dreamtale. He had it in his desk, so I grabbed it before we left the castle. Do you think this will help us get through to him, or will it piss him off? Killer, when did you grab this? Y'all had to be, like, chased out. When did you get this? Oh, was this when he, like, ran away? Like... he ran to get, like, supplies, and he ran into Nightmare's, like, office, grabbed it, and then went and grabbed all this killer. You sneaky son of a bitch. You sneaky son of a bitch. Like, when did this happen, Killer? They all silently stared at the simple golden crown Nightmare had likely worn before he and his brother had become enemies. Without warning, Killer shoved it at Ink. You've had the best luck at getting through to each of us, so... Ink took the circlet and put it in his satchel. I'll go first to make sure the air isn't toxic with negativity. You're immune, though, Dust mentioned. It won't affect you. I can perform a scan, Ink reminded him. Dust flushed indigo. Right. Be careful, Horror urged. Cross agitatedly drummed his fingers on his leg and kept quiet. Was supposed to be skedaddling. Like, dude, your bro was, like, fucking bleeding out. You were supposed to be going fast. Why are you going to grab a fucking crown?
He might have thought it was important.
But you had to go get, like, Dust was bleeding! Oh my goodness gracious. You, POV, you sent a little sibling to ask your mama for McDonald's. True.
This is what I was thinking about. The Killer's handing him the circlet, like, here, you do it, you do it, you do it. He likes you the best. You're the favorite. Okay. Ink focused on Dreamtale's codes and opened a portal. A desolate wasteland appeared in the mirror and he stepped through. A haunting chill fell over his bones, but no pain. A few scans proved the air was safe and he called the others. They appeared through Cross's / portal, gathering in a tiny group as they stared at the desolation that stretched around them. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
Dreamtale was dead. Nothing was in sight except the endless expanse of gray dirt and small piles of off-white dust. Ink did not look too closely at the codes as he performed another scan. During their planning, Dust had admitted that none of them knew the extent of what happened in Nightmare's home. The gang had that whole don't ask about it thing before Ink showed up and disregarded that official rule. Prepare. Ink was able to put some of the pieces together on his own. Primarily that Nightmare likely believed that Dream betrayed him in some way, but he was not about to check the codes to find out the rest. He wanted Nightmare to share his past on his own terms. Nothing brush at his senses, positive or negative. If he's here, I can't sense him. We're exiled. Exiled. He's exiled! In the silent desolation of Dreamtale, the noise seemed far and loud. Let's look around then. Stay together. They began to walk. It was a good thing that they could portal out, hopefully, because there were no landmarks to guide them. Everything was gone, leaving the land barren and in ruin while the sky was an angry, stormy black. Despite the appearance of the clouds, Ink knew it would not rain. At least, it would not rain water. More likely, it would be soot or ash. What are you saying in chat, Doodler? Shut up! Shut up! Progress was surprisingly slow. The gang's pace started out quick enough, but it gradually decreased, as though they were walking waist-deep in mud. The ground was the opposite of muddy. Their shoes crunched on the burnt, dead soil as they walked for what felt like hours. Ink checked the clock on his glove and noted it had only been half an hour. The others were already getting tired, though. Ink heard Killer's labored breathing and scanned him. Any worrisome results came out negative. Ink was not satisfied. Are you four alright? He urged. Be honest. Killer blinked at him lethargically. Just tired. I'm feeling a bit weak, too. Dust confessed faintly. Cross and Horror said nothing. Ink heard their ragged breathing and saw Horror hunch over slightly, arms wrapped around himself. Alarm bells immediately rang in Ink's head. We're leaving. Dust stared at him, uncomprehendedly. Why? Something's wrong, Ink insisted sharply. He raised his hand and focused. We'll come back. Killer took off running. Cross jolted into alertness and chased after him with a loud swear. Ink, Dust, and Horror were left to pursue, as Killer made a mad dash forward, nearly tripping over his own feet in his haste. They ran up a hill covered in what might have been green grass once. Now it was long dead, leaving the smallest wisp of decayed sward that crumbled beneath their feet. Killer had just reached the top of the hill when he abruptly vanished from sight. Cross gasped, but none of them cried out for Killer, only because they dare not break the eerie silence that shrouded Dreamtale. They made it to Killer's previous position and looked over the other side to see a steep drop. Killer was at the bottom, laying against the crumbling dirt behind him, with a stunned look on his face. Ink jumped down, using magic beneath his feet to support himself as he descended to Killer's position. He landed and hurried to Killer's side, kneeling beside him as he checked for injuries. Killer pushed himself up and hissed, flinching as he lifted his left hand off the dirt while supporting himself with his right. Ink's scan showed he had fractured his left wrist in his fall. "Stay still," Ink commanded as he did another scan, focusing on Killer's head. "How many buttons are on my coat?" 7, Killer answered instantly, though his voice was shaky. There was no crack or blood to indicate he had hit his head in the fall, and Ink's scan showed no sign of a skull injury. He summoned his green magic and focused on Killer's wrist. The others arrived a moment later, having carefully picked their way down a less steep drop. "What were you doing?" Cross hissed lowly. "Oh, sorry." "Do what it takes to survive." Keeping his voice. "What were you doing?" Cross hissed lowly, keeping his voice down. "I don't know," Killer confessed, and his voice had a tense strain to it. "I thought I heard voices." Killer's sprint had not been the kind used by someone who was running towards a sound. Ink did not ask what kind of voices would make Killer run away. Ink did one more scan and frowned. "Your soul beat is too high." He scanned all of them. "The rate of all your soul beats are high." The alarm bells in his head grew louder. "This isn't right. We should go." Cross stared at Ink with an uncomprehending expression, eyelids dull. Dust seemed hesitant, shifting back and forth like he was ready to dodge. Killer kept leaning against the dirty side of the hill and stared into space. Horror was not looking at Ink. His gaze was locked on something in the distance, away from the hill Killer had fallen down. Ink followed his gaze and saw a single shape in the desolate, empty wasteland that was Dreamtale. It was the large, broken stump of a tree. Sitting on top the stump was Nightmare. His back was to the game, leaving his tentacles on full display as they remained stock still. Ugh. If not for the slight movement of Nightmare's breathing, Ink might think he was a statue replica perched on the broken stump. The chill that settled in Ink's soul had nothing to do with the aura that must be affecting the game. Nightmare was right there, in plain sight, right in front of him, yet Ink could not sense him at all. Not the rawness of the corruption or the cool presence of Nightmare. "You're here." Nightmare's voice was soft, but it still carried through the dead, empty air. The way it fell flat reminded Ink of the anti-void's atmosphere, and he had to repress a shudder. He did not know why he bothered. Nightmare was the guardian of negativity. All those emotions could not be hidden from him. "Hey, boss," Horace said weakly. His face was drawn, and sweat beaded on his brow, but he managed to sound casual. "Have you been here the whole time?" Nightmare's tentacles flicked once. A single movement filled Ink's mind with images of a venomous snake coiling before they struck. "Where else would I be?" His voice became low and bitter. "How amusing it is that it's only now that you bothered to come find me." Ink flinched. Cross winced. Horace scowled. Nightmare's tentacles twitched. "You're angry I did not assist any of you? Why are you surprised? I am the villain, after all." Ink's unease receded in favor of compassion. "Don't call yourself that. I know you're upset that the balance is so messed up, but you didn't know. It's not your fault that—" Nightmare's head snapped around to face him. His expression twisted with fury as his slitted cyan eyelight burned with hate. "You think I'm upset about that?" Something heavy curled in the air, and the gang shuddered. Killer was nearly doubled over, breathing sharp as he stared blankly ahead of him with unblinking eye sockets. Ink remained unbowed. "I know you are, boss. You never wanted to hurt people like this." Nightmare looked at him. The area around his eyelight looked darker than normal, giving the eyelight an unnaturally toxic hue. "Why aren't you wearing your mask?" Ink startled, thrown off by the question. What? You were supposed to wear your mask, Nightmare said. His voice was eerily flat. Do you want to be killed? It was likely a rhetorical, snappish question, but Ink answered anyway. No, I don't want to be killed. Are you certain? Nightmare lost the neutral, distant tone he had carried in favor of a scathing snarl. Then why are you so determined to throw your life away? Why haven't you told anyone that Fresh captured you and threatened you? Of all the things he could possibly say, Ink never expected that. He choked on his possible responses, freezing up as the gang rolled around to stare at him. Fresh what? Dust asked faintly. What the hell, Ink? Killer croaked, dragging a hand down his face. Nightmare ignored them. His voice softened, trembling with a mix of fear and rage. Did you think that giving yourself up to the Omega Timeline would stop him? He would never keep that deal, Ink. He would attack the others the moment you handed yourself over to those butchers. Ink's confusion twisted into a nauseating panic as he comprehended that Nightmare somehow knew about Fresh. Confusion dampened his fear again as he heard the mistakes in Nightmare's account. It hit Ink that Nightmare very well might have seen what he said. The problem was, his vision wasn't completely real, just like his false memories from when he used his aura on Horror. The gang was quiet. They stared at Ink. Too late, Ink realized he had been silent for too long. Cross's sockets went blank. Ink? What is he talking about? That's not what happened! Ink blurted, panicked. Fresh did him! He did capture me and threaten you, but he doesn't work for the Omega Timeline! Then why did he attack you? Nightmare accused. His face was dark with anger, but the way his tentacles shifted made Ink think he was satisfied. He was corrupted. Hurt. He needed a healer. How did he know you were a healer? Horror asked slowly. Ink should have expected that question, but he still faltered. He just found out? But he wasn't trying to hurt me. Are you seriously defending that parasite right now? Killer demanded. After he threatened you? And us? His anger grew, and Nightmare's small smile grew with it. The chill in Ink's soul had little to do with what Killer's harsh questions, and more to do with Nightmare's reaction to it. Horror gave Killer a sharp look and turned away from Nightmare to Ink. Why didn't you tell us? His eye sockets went wide and his own anger mounted. Were you considering giving yourself up to save us? That's not what Fresh wanted! Ink cut himself off. I have to tell them, but if I tell them about the stars now, their anger could make the boss worse. His own anger could make him worse. He shook his head, exhaling slowly to calm himself down, even as his soul shuddered with dread. Later. I promise I'll tell you later, please. That's not what we need to talk about right now. He looked away from Horror to the guardian negativity that still sat passively on the tree stump. We're here for you, boss. Nightmare said nothing. His smile was gone. Had he ever smiled, or had Ink imagined it? Now he was not so sure. Either way, he showed no signs of annoyance that his attempt at his distraction had failed. Ink reassessed that thought and repressed a wince as he berated himself for thinking Nightmare was manipulating things. Even if Nightmare manipulating things was half the reason this whole mess started, surely Nightmare was not manipulating them now, not intentionally. He must be doing it to try to get them to leave, or something. This might be harder than Ink thought, considering Nightmare could sense every single one of Ink's conflicting emotions. Thankfully, Dust spoke up. Look, boss. We're pissed you didn't show up when Era attacked, but that doesn't mean you have to keep moping in solitude. That's Cross's job. Cross kicked him in the leg, but relented. He has a point, boss. We're worried about you. Why? Nightmare asked bitterly. Because we care about you, Ink said earnestly. Nightmare sneered at him, but it looked miserable. Even after I tricked and lied to you? Yes, Ink said honestly. We're all still hurt, but you need help, and we're here for you. You're not alone. You don't have to fight the corruption by yourself. We can move forward and work this out together. He reached out with an open hand, hesitant but hopeful. Let us help you. Not me. The cross slander was so uncalled for. This is not the time for that. Nightmare did not accept his hand. He remained seated, staring at the empty wasteland that had once been his thriving home. Are you trying to tell me I need to change? Nightmare asked softly. His quiet tone sent a chill down Ink's spine, but he kept his head held high. I think I am. Nightmare's mouth twitched, then curled into a full smile. A ripple of energy tore through the air, and the decayed stump shattered. Behind him, the gang fell to their knees. Cross screamed, clutching at his head, while Killer's eye socket slipped closed and he collapsed, shuddering on the ground like he was having a seizure. Dust kept himself upright, but his breathing was sharp, his eyelids staring at nothing, while Horror howled in pain, gripping the broken edge of his skull like he wanted to tear at it with his fingers. Ink blinked, and suddenly his vision was filled with an oily black substance. He did not have time to act before Nightmare lashed out. His tentacle wrapped around Ink's throat, and he lifted him off the ground. Horror gave a panicked cry as Ink gasped, pulling weakly at the tentacle around his neck, as several more wrapped around his body, pinning his legs together and snaking around his ribs. "Boss, let him go!" Dust screamed. Nightmare's lip curled. He doesn't have those, but okay. His form rippled, and suddenly he did not appear to be made of black sludge. Instead, it was like he was glitching darkness, his form flickering and rippling at its edges as his eyelight thinned to a slit, and his fingers sharpened to claw-like points. Ink caught a glimpse of his teeth and was horrified to see they were unnaturally pointed, just like they corrupted in Horror Tale. Such pathetic begging is unbecoming of a murderer, Nightmare sneered. What benefits do you think you'll get by pretending to care? Did Ink trick you all into being a good person after you murdered everyone in your worlds? Cross recoiled. He clutched at his head so tightly that his fingers scraped on the bone, leaving scratches in their wake. Ink tried to reach out for him and heal the injury, but Nightmare's tentacles tightened, forcing a pain cry from his throat. Ink has infected your minds and made you believe you could be better, Nightmare cooed. But you are all nothing more than killers and thugs, released upon the multiverse by my will. You all have forgotten your place. You were my servants. You disobeyed your king. You belong to me. His gaze locked onto Horror, and his smile grew wider, resembling Flowey's soulless grin more than Nightmare's own. Did you think you actually protected him, Horror? Did you think I'd forgive you for standing against me for him? Horror's eyelights went out. His gaze was not frightening, but desperate. Please. Nightmare bared his teeth in a sharp black smile. The gang members that were not already down fell to their knees, and Ink heard a snapping sound. He frantically scanned the others for injuries, but they were unharmed. The damage was done to Ink. Ink vaguely registered that 2 of his ribs had snapped and tried to heal himself, only to give a gasping scream as Nightmare tightened his hold on him. Nightmare's tentacles were still around his legs and throat, keeping him restrained as the appendages in his withering aura of negativity kept the gang at bay. If anyone else touched Nightmare or got too close, they would die. Nightmare used that to his full advantage to hurt Ink. Ink had once feared that Nightmare would harm him. That fear had diminished long ago, but now it had finally become reality. There was no chance to defend himself as Nightmare kept hold of him, slamming him into the ground with so much force that his head impacted the stone and his vision blurred. The sharp points of the tentacles and claws lashed at Ink's bones, drawing blood, as the other ones applied pressure to his neck and ribs, squeezing hard enough that he felt something snap. Killer was screaming. Ink heard Dust crying. Was Horror hurt again? Ink had to help. His vision swayed and darkened, but he struggled to stay conscious. Something else was definitely broken. His arm, maybe? And maybe some more of his ribs. It hurt to breathe. Stop! Horror sobbed. His voice seemed far away to Ink, but he sounded so scared. Someone must be hurt. Ink attempted to help, but his head hit the ground again, and a dark substance dripped over his left eye socket, sealing it shut. Black blood. He was bleeding. Oh. Ink stirred weakly and tried to find who else was hurt, but all he could sense were these strange readings coming from around him. The one that was hurt was very close. There was tentacles and darkness all around him. Nightmare was there. He must be the one who was hurt. Ink tried to reach out with green magic, but Nightmare struck him in the side of the head. His fingers were sharp enough to leave deep gashes in their wake. Ink didn't know how he ended up on the ground at Nightmare's feet. He did not remember being dropped or thrown. He had likely been thrown, considering how much everything hurt. All of Ink's bones felt like they were on fire. When he coughed, something thick dripped down his chin. Oh, his soul was visible, hovering in front of his sternum. It was as cracked and scarred as ever. As Ink gazed at it numbly, the cracks appeared deeper. as though the golden binary codes truly was the only thing holding it together. Nightmare stood over Ink, but ignored him as he glared at the gang. This is your fault. I know, it's my fault, I'm sorry. Horror's broken, terrified voice floated dissonantly through Ink's mind. Ink could see him, but he sounded so far away, like he was speaking through a tunnel. Horror's cheeks were wet with tears. Please don't kill him, I'm sorry, please. Ink should be scared, he supposed, but he was too confused by the sharp pains throughout his body to pay it much mind. That quickly changed when Nightmare grabbed Ink's hood and yanked his head up, smiled predatory, and eyelight as merciless as ice. I would never kill Ink. I need him if I'm going to destroy the Omega timeline. Nightmare grabbed Ink's jaw in a vice-like grip, squeezing hard enough that he feared it would break. You can reach it, my precious protector. You will give me what I need, or I'll have to break even more of your bones. But do not fret. His smile could be seen as gentle if not for the wicked look in his eyes. I'll let you heal yourself so I can do it again. With that promise, so similar to Queen Undyne's threat, Ink's dazed confusion was quick to fade. Clarity could be a terrible thing. Ink could not repress the terror that gripped his soul even as he forced himself to focus on his head, healing what he could. Nightmare let him use green magic, watching smugly, because he needed Ink to be conscious in order to get what he wanted. Ink had the Omega Timeline's codes on his bones. He also now had the Doodle Sphere's golden binary codes on his soul. His only saving grace was that Nightmare did not know that Ink was linked to the core of the multiverse itself. Ink would never open those doors for him. Never. Despite his terror and the pain he was in, Ink kept his defiance as he always had. I won't help you fight them. Nightmare adopted a hurt expression. His eyelight remained a predatory, ruthless slit. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? Nightmare gave me a chance to live. Ink spat. You're not Nightmare. Nightmare. No, Corrupted's tentacles curled in amusement. I am Nightmare. I have always been Nightmare. I simply refuse to accept my true self. That's a lie, Ink snarled. Nightmare is patient, he is thoughtful, he is kind, even if he doesn't think so. He cares about us. He's scared when we're injured, and uses his aura only to help us keep calm. He doesn't hurt us. You aren't him. Corrupted pretended to flinch, but Ink could see the malicious glint in his eyelight. Do you really think you can survive without me? The only reason any of your pathetic lives hold any value is because of me. Without me, you'd all be rotting back in your dead-end alternate universes and timelines, miserable and alone. A tentacle wrapped around Ink's throat again, and despite his resolve, he flinched. A knife flew at Corrupted's soul. He deflected it with a flick of the tentacle, turning to stare ominously at Killer. Killer's breathing was ragged, but he pushed himself to his feet, tears both clear and black dripping down his cheeks and chin. His soul flickered in front of his chest, twisting rapidly between a target and the distorted target of Stage 3. Give the boss back! Killer screamed. Rather than be put off by his anger, Corrupted grinned and slammed Ink into the ground, causing his vision to blur. Corrupted released him and gleefully deflected Killer's knives and bone attacks, basking in his enraged, hopeless shouts as he remained close to Ink, flaunting Killer's inability to make him retreat. Cross was still unresponsive, but Horror was on his feet, chest heaving, and eyelight glowing a violent and frightened red as he seemed to debate whether to run in to try to get to Ink. Corrupted was much too close for that, and Ink could see Horror's terror and desperation creeping across his face. Ink wanted to cry out and beg the others to run, but knew that they would never leave him behind. Corrupted knew that as well. He had the advantage the moment they stepped into Dreamtale. If Ink was being honest, Corrupted had the advantage the moment the gang feared what a corrupted Nightmare could do. As long as we're afraid, sad or angry, he'll win. Ink took a ragged breath and grasped Nightmare's leg. Corrupted looked down at him with a stare that might be apathetic, if not for the sadistic glee that shone in his eyelight. Ink ignored that look and the unnatural toxicity he could feel in Corrupted's aura, focusing instead on memories of soft words and encouragement and steady arms that held him close, determined not to let him go. It's gonna be okay, Nightmare. Ink rasped. We know you're in there. We'll save you. Don't give up. You can fight Corrupted. Corrupted's eyelight went black. Shut up! He kicked Ink in the jaw, making him crumble to the ground. "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" Every scream was accompanied by a harsh kick to Ink's ribs, his back, his hip, his arms, his legs, his head. Corrupted did not stop, face contorted in such a way that Ink could not see Nightmare in him at all, as he struck Ink again and again and again, and Ink must have blacked out, because when his vision returned, he was on his back, his head turned towards the others. Dust was curled up so tightly that Ink could not see his face beneath his hood, and Horror looked like he had been thrown to the ground. Killer was on his knees again, and Cross struggled to rise, whimpering faintly as he still clutched at his skull. Like Killer, his soul hovered in front of his chest, flickering like it was glitching out. "Get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head! It seems all of you need to learn your lesson." Corrupted appeared to have regained his composure as he smiled warmly down at Ink. His teeth were sharp and covered in a dark substance. "Do not fret. I don't want to kill any of you, my Gain. I just want you all home and safe with me." Ink knew that if they returned to the castle, he would never come out. The rest of the gang would not either. At least, Killer, Cross, Dust, and Horror would not come out as themselves. Being the protector of creation, Ink was immune to corruption, but the others were not. Corrupted would use Nightmare's aura to weaken and twist them into his perfect, obedient, violent soldiers, just like the gang in Ink's vision in Horror Tale. Corrupted's fake grin vanished. "But if you want to be whining children, fine. No more games." A shifting cloud of darkness bubbled from his body, like a dark fog of magic, surrounding him and Ink in a translucent sphere. Ink was not the only one who could sense the pure, deadly malice threaded out the mist. I'm getting tongue-tied. Horror and Killer fell back, while Dust grabbed Cross and pulled him away, his face taut with fear as he rushed to put distance between them and the deadly aura. Only Ink and Corrupted remained inside, unharmed by the toxic negativity. For a moment, Ink let himself hope the others were retreating, but he already knew better. The gang halted as soon as it was safe, frozen by indecision as they tried to figure out what to do. Dust reached out, his hand glowing with his magic, but his soul manipulation failed to pierce through the distorted veil. Corrupted moved too quickly for any of them to stop him, and his sharp fingers lashed across Ink's back. The pain was so sudden that Ink did not have the time to scream. Another slash was followed by a violent yank as Ink's brown coat was ripped from his body. His belt fell away along with stripes of the jacket, and his mask clattered to the ground beside it, staring morously up at the dark sky above. Ink stared dully at his shredded coat, mind going numb with shock. He noticed the left sleeve was blank. The snakes must have been torn to shreds during the assault. The extra negativity magic was gone with them. Another mistake. There was a sickening thud, and Ink weakly turned his head to see Horror had crumbled to the ground. The crack in his skull dripping blood like he had run into a wall. Cross was alert, his hand raised, and Ink realized the magic Horror had run into was a vibrant purple. It was not a bone. It was shaped like a hand. Cross saw it as well. His face went blank as his arm fell limply at his side. Corrupted cackled at Cross's terror, but focused on the one he could use to torment them all. The aura negativity must muffle the gang, because Ink heard no noise from them as Corrupted attacked. The sharp points of his phalanges and tentacles through the clothes Nightmare had so carefully gotten for Ink, their durable material unable to withstand the strength of Corrupted's assault. By the time Corrupted was finished, Ink's black shirt and pants were in tatters. His vest was completely gone, and the long sleeves of his shirt were shorn off along with most of the torso, exposing parts of his ribs and spine. His mostly intact brown scarf hung loosely down his back, its ends stained black. The satchel on his leg also survived the assault somehow, hanging limply from his thigh by a few threads. Corrupted's foot slammed down on Ink's upper back, and he cried out in pain. The corruption basked in his misery, smiling at the gang, who stared back in mute horror and fear. "Look at what you've done," Corrupted hissed at them. "This is what happens when you disobey me. This is what happens when you try to overrule your king. Your pathetic little pet will suffer your punishments." His gaze dropped, and the demon wearing Nightmare's face sneered down at Ink. "The truth is, I don't need a healer. I certainly don't need a weak, wretched, useless puppet of a protector. If you refuse to honor our deal, then there is only one place for you." Corrupted's tentacles wrapped around Ink's neck and ribs and lifted him, leaving him to hang limply in the air. A cold, shadowy portal opened wide, glitched along the edges like they were on the verge of shattering. On the other side, Ink saw a familiar white. He did not have the energy to struggle or plead. Corrupted mockingly wiped away Ink's tears of the tentacle, flicking it so a bit more of his shirt was torn from his body. The only reason you have any of this is because of me, he sneered. I'll get rid of the rest of it later. I have to wonder, will you believe you made everything up if you have no signs to show you your life was real? Ink couldn't muffle his sobs. They joined the ringing in his head, harsh and pounding, but he knew that the screeching static would soon be replaced by the internal silence of back there. The static grew louder, and louder still, until Ink was sure it was screaming, Sans, help him! The indigo-shaded bone attack hit Corrupted in the shoulder. It did not even leave a scratch before it clattered to the ground like a toy, but the fact that it had pierced the veil of shadows at all was significant in itself. With Ink still trapped in his tentacles, Corrupted slowly turned just eye to reveal his toxic eyelight to his attacker. Then he calmly walked towards the gain. Dust didn't move as Corrupted approached. He was frozen in place, his arms still outstretched as he shook violently. Corrupted almost seemed amused as he halted and leaned forward, his skull mere inches from Dust's terrified face. Killer's soul was much more malleable than yours. Thinking about it, you are a rather redundant murderer, aren't you? You're useless to me. Corrupted smiled so wide it looked like his jagged maw had ripped his face in half. I don't need you. Dust did not try to dodge. He did not speak, or try to fight. He stood in place as his arm fell down to his side and squeezed his eye sockets shut. He'd given up. Ink didn't. He forced his broken fingers to bend as he yanked the syringe from his satchel and jabbed it into Corrupted's neck. He shrieked and threw Ink away from him, pulling the unspent syringe out of him. Corrupted threw it to the ground and it shattered, the small bit of negativity magic spilling out. It seeped into the ground and vanished in the dust. Ink hit the ground hard, the impact reverberating through his battered body. He could feel the consciousness abandoning him as he clung to awareness by the thinnest thread. His breathing sounded too loud in his head, wet and rattly, as burning air forced itself into and out of his body. Corrupted snarled at him, expression contorted into a look of frothing rage as he snarled at Ink with a jagged, shark-like maw that dripped toxic sludge. What happens next is your fault, Ink. Even with the rattling gasp that were his breaths, Ink heard the others crying out for him. They were in pain. Dust kept pleading with Toriel that he had to, while Killer shrieked that Kara would never have his soul again. Horror merely laughed, the sound growing louder and louder until it resembled a desperate wail. Cross was muttering too quietly and quickly for Ink to understand him. Corrupted was hurting them. He was torturing them, first by making them watch as he hurt Ink, now as he ripped into their minds using their fears. Ink had to save them. He could save them. He just needed to grab and push. The air rumbled. The codes warped. Something snapped. Corrupted screamed in fury. Then he was gone. Corrupted Nightmare blocked from entry to Dreamtale. Ink did not have a moment to feel relieved. Along with the sharp pains that were his cuts and broken bones, he felt a burning sensation in Horatel's codes. Was Corrupted trying to break in? It was getting dark. Why was it so dark? Someone was shouting again. Horror. He still sounded scared. Why did he sound scared? Was someone hurt? Warm arms lifted Ink's head, and he remembered that he was the hurt one, as flames tore through his bones. The only reason he did not scream was because he choked up a glob of black blood instead. Another voice rumbled close by, nearly lost in the dull buzzing that muffled Ink's hearing, but he recognized Cross. Ink forced his eye sockets open and saw white and black. White of back there and the black of his blood, accompanied by the smallest glimpse of purple. Injured, confused, on the verge of unconsciousness, and afraid, Ink panicked. He did not know where he was. He just knew he had to leave. There was white and black and purple meant Cross was not himself. Cross was not himself, and Nightmare was corrupted. Ink's bones were bleeding and broken. Horatel's codes burned. Corrupted would destroy Horatel to get to Ink. He could not go to the Doodle Sphere. He could not let Corrupted know it existed. Not to an alternate universe either. He could not go into an AU or Nightmare would kill everyone there. Not to the Anti-Void. Too much white. He couldn't go back there. Please don't send him back there. He could be useful. He could save Horatel in the game and Nightmare he needed to save. Hold on to him! Someone shouted desperately, but Ink was already gone. He reappeared in darkness, laying on his side with his mask and supplies missing except for what was left in his damaged satchel. The empty blackness was not as bad as the empty whiteness, but so terrifying in its loneliness. Thankfully, Ink soon realized he was not alone as someone else gave a startled yell. What the hell? How did you get in? Oh, stars! As Sans in a red scarf crouched beside Ink, mouth agape with shock as he stared at him with his one good eyelight. His other eye socket was melted, leaving the bone slightly drooping like snow in the heat of the sun. Pixels gathered in front of it, hiding it from sight. The injury did not prod at Ink's senses like most did, suggesting it was more of a scar. Someone else must be injured. The injuries prodded at Ink's senses, but the readings were distant and dull. Ink stared blankly at his arm, which lay outstretched in front of him. It looked strange, like he was seeing it through a broken mirror. The pieces were all jagged. His sleeve was mostly gone, but the bone was more black than white. Strange. He did not remember getting that many codes. He had to hide them. Why did the marks look wet? Ink moved feebly, trying in vain to cover his marks with his scarf, but the sands gently stopped his hand, keeping him from moving. His scarf reminded Ink of dust. Ink hoped he was nice like dust. Where was Dust? Had he been hurt? You're gonna be okay, kid. This Sans was a liar. Ink knew he was lying, because there were tears in his good eye socket. Hidden by glitches, the bad one was too melted for him to cry in that eye. That was the price of determination for Gino, he supposed. Oh right, Ink knew this Sans. This was Gino. Ink was supposed to find Gino. He could help with something. Help. Ink barely registered that he'd managed to make the plea. Gino's mouth moved, but he could not hear him anymore. The pain from corrupted's beating slowly faded from Ink's mind, and he blacked out. The darkness remained. The shadows cut so deeply that they may as well be a single entity instead of individual claws. Nightmare did not linger at the dark castle. He knew what he wanted. He knew where they would look for him. He sat upon the decayed stump and waited. Somewhere inside, there was just enough light to understand what was happening. The black apple of his soul was rotten, impaled by the shadows around it, but a bit of its core remained, feebly flickering. He could still see his surroundings and feel his body, but it was not his to control. He knew it waited for the game. He could not prevent it. He was lost, trapped within, and like a mere observer, he could only watch. Don't come here. Stay away. The game didn't listen. Nightmare felt their appearance some distance from his position. So predictable. His aura had already poisoned the air. Not so they would die, oh no, but so they would succumb. The Protector was immune, of course, but the others gradually weakened. All it took was a little flick and twist of his aura, and Killer took off running, pursued by the ghost of those he had slain. Nightmare had to muffle a laugh as Killer plunged off the edge of a cliff and broke his wrist. His humor became annoyance when Ink healed the injury. It turned back to delight again as he recalled that Ink could heal himself. Oh, this was going to be beautiful. The light that reminded of himself tried to protest. He might as well have stayed silent. The gang saw him. They approached, ignorantly believing that Nightmare had been in Dreamtale the whole time. He stopped them before they could begin their aggravating speeches, twisting it around so their suspicions shifted to Ink. He basked in the unease and hurt he caused as he lied about Ink's encounter with Fresh. It had been a lie? Only now that lingering light understood that he had been tricked. Fresh had never threatened Ink like that, had he? Oh no, he had. Just not to the extent that the corruption made him see. Ink proved himself to be a nuisance, like always. The gang put their anger aside in favor of helping poor Nightmare. The gang focused on him. They set their anger and confusion aside because they wanted to help their boss. Ugh. Ink was so close to Nightmare. His eyelights were bright with hope and belief in Nightmare. Had Ink forgotten what he had done to Nightmare? Did he truly think Nightmare would turn around and forgive his treachery? Nightmare wanted to see the exact moment that hope became terror. He could not fight his desires anymore and lunged. A pulse of his aura sent the gang to their knees, and he trapped Ink in his tentacles, form glitching to reveal his true self. He did not knock the gang out, though he was perfectly capable. He wanted them to watch. No, 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 please don't hurt them! Ink's bones felt so fragile as they snapped beneath his hands and tentacles. His attempts to free himself were feeble and pathetic as his blood splattered over the dusty ground. He flared his aura again, coaxing the gang's fears out into the forms of hallucinations, and relished in their pain as they pleaded and shrieked. Was that only horror begging? No, it was not. The light could not scream. Ink could scream. His cries grew weaker. Nightmare did not want Ink to merely cry. He wanted him to beg. Stop, please, stop. Ink was on the ground, still alive, moving weakly. At Corrupted's command, Ink's damaged soul hovered in front of his sternum. The fear that tore through the rest of the gang was delicious. Corrupted let himself bask in it for a moment before he glared at the gang. This is your fault. I know, it's my fault. I'm sorry. Horror groveled, weeping pathetically. Please don't kill him. I'm sorry, please. I know, I'm sorry, please stop, please. Unfortunately for them, Nightmare had no interest in granting Ink the mercy of a swift demise. He needed him to achieve his goal of destroying that pesky Omega timeline. It was a shame the Protector could not be corrupted. Oh well, Ink could be broken in other ways. Ink's defiance and bravery proved to be a nuisance, as always. Killer's defiance was less expected, but even more amusing as his rage washed over Nightmare like a pleasant breeze. And then Ink had the gall to grab him. His words echoed through the darkness, faint and distant like they were muffled by water. It's gonna be okay, Nightmare. We know you're in there. We'll save you. Don't give up. You can fight Corrupted. Nightmare stirred. Even now, Ink was trying to help him. Even now, Ink naively believed that Nightmare was completely lost and not in control. Pathetic. Ink paid for it. The glimmer of light within the darkness shed away from the violence Nightmare wrought upon his traitorous servant. He watched as Ink's blood was spilled upon the dust and dirt of Dreamtale. He could do nothing as Corrupted continued his assault, even when Ink fell unconscious. His body could not cry. Please stop. Slowly, the spark that was Nightmare shrank further, putting more and more distance between himself and reality as he tried to flee. The numbness of apathy was a welcome relief as Ink's coat and gear were torn away, leaving him weakly stirring as he was carried to a portal that led to back there. Even the threat to dust failed to wake the light from where he was drowned deep within the darkness. There was nothing he could do. Nightmare had already drowned in the shadows. The corruption had won. Then Ink managed to bar Nightmare from Dreamtale. He dared to block Nightmare from his world. The game escaped this time. He returned to the castle alone, without the protector he needed to end everything, without the corrupted servants he desired. The gang of old would have accepted Nightmare's gift willingly. It was Ink's fault they had changed. Ink had turned the others against him, the traitor. As much as Nightmare despised Ink, he would never kill him. He needed Ink to get to the Omega timeline and end this multiverse. Why kill him when he could be broken instead? How wonderful it would be to have a victim that was immune to his corruption, one he could force to watch as everything around him withered away and died. With the power negativity gave him, the end of this multiverse was inevitable. Ink would remember his place. They all would. Nightmare focused his rage on the negativity imprint in Horror Tale. This isn't happening. This isn't happening! Horror ignored Cross's faint, hysterical ramble as he pushed himself to his feet, ribs aching as air was finally forced back into his body. The difference from when Nightmare Corrupted's presence tainted the land was apparent, like the atmosphere had become thousands of times lighter, and no longer tried to crush the gang into dust. They never should have come here. They never should have looked for Nightmare the way they did. But the truth was, none of them expected Nightmare to actually be completely corrupted. So corrupted, in fact, that Horror could not consider it the boss at all. That could never be Nightmare. The splatters of black blood stood out in the sharp contrast on the dusty gray ground, and Horror froze all over again. Gaze locked on the site where Corrupted had beaten Ink within an inch of his life. Corrupted did not want Ink dead, but he could certainly hurt him. Something he had just proven to punish Ink and the gang because Horror dared to stand up to him. Don't think like that. That's what he wants. It was easier said than done. Did Corrupted take him? Dust said unsteadily, shaking from the stress and the aftermath of whatever illusions Corrupted had thrown him into. I couldn't. I was still seeing Dusttail. Did Corrupted grab Ink? Killer had knelt in the dirt again, rocking slightly as he clutched at his chest right below his target-shaped soul. Horror's own hallucinations were more like memories as he saw Queen Undying callously beat Ink and Paprika. He desperately forced himself to remain calm for their sake. I don't think so. His bracelet! Cross blurted as he broke out of his frantic denials. Is he here? He dug through the scraps. Is it here? Fuck! Ugh. He dug through the scraps of fabric that had been torn off of Ink. His coat was mostly intact, but enough fabric from the other clothes were there that someone might believe he had dusted in that spot. His belt was also there, severed into multiple pieces. Dust gave a low, strangled whine when he saw the belt, and horror was struck by a clear memory of Ink placing his Dust-tail token in one of its pockets. He stumbled over the bloody ground and picked up Ink's arc mask. One of the lenses was cracked. "I can't find the bracelet," Cross said brokenly. Horror didn't understand why he was so focused on the bracelet. If it wasn't here, it was still on Ink. If it was still on Ink, it should have worked, but it wasn't working, which meant Ink was either unconscious or... Horror stopped thinking. "Where could Ink have gone?" Dust interjected desperately. "Dust-tail like we planned? The weird world he mentioned? Back to Horror-tail?" "No!" Cross's cry was faint with despair. "He won't risk it. Nightmare has a negativity imprint in Horror-tail's ruins." The implication of his words washed over the gang. Cross's panic propelled him to his feet, and he violently slashed open a portal. The gang dove through right into Toriel's personal office. She took one look at them and rose to her feet, ordering one of her guards to retrieve a doctor. She circled around her desk and put her hands on Horror's shoulders, grounding him. "What has happened? Where is Ink?" Horror did not have the chance to speak. Something tore through Horror-tail's atmosphere like an intangible explosion, causing several monsters to collapse while others merely felt chills go up their spine. It did not matter what shields or walls or cabins stood between one end of the underground and the other. The blasting negativity reached all the way from the ruins to the capital, passing over the labs and Hotland as it went. A horrible grinding noise was heard through the lab area. A few of the scientists inside took off running towards or away from the site, screaming for the emergency alarm to be raised as the others shouted for someone to bring the queen. In an instant, Horror-tail's core powered down and its underground was plunged into darkness. Blue was certain he would never tire of seeing the sky. Outertail could rival Underswap's sky in beauty, but the sight of the sun, endless blue, and clouds would always bring a soul-deep joy to Blue that he could hardly contain it. He did not bother to contain it, so he happily hummed to himself as he darted around his kitchen, making food for himself and his guests. Dream had never agreed to stay in Blue and Stretch's house for so long before. Blue's excitement that he had finally accepted a bed in the guest room was a bit dampened by the likely reason why. That Dream felt too sick to leave. Dream's condition had gotten steadily worse over the past few days, and Blue had no way to help him. The shadows under his eye sockets were so dark they looked like bruises, and he moved slowly and tentatively, like he was afraid that one wrong move would shatter his bones. Sounds like a skill issue. He had woken Blue up with his scream last night. The sound was so agonizing that Blue had bolted out of his bed, certain that Dream had been attacked. Dream had not been attacked, but he had been close to hyperventilating, his dull eyelights looking through Blue as he whispered in a voice that was almost too low to hear. "He's gone." Dream did not remember what happened in the morning. He barely got himself out of bed, limping down the stairs for breakfast. He had to use the wall to support himself. Blue did his best to remain positive and optimistic because Dream did not need more negativity now. Literally. Blue set a freshly made fruit salad on the counter and opened the fridge to check how many eggs were in the counter. Pancakes, French toast, or waffles. Either are always great, but I think I'm in a pancake mood. I'm not reading his fucking laugh. What do you think, Dream? Dream did not answer. Dream? He looked back and saw Dream was on the ground by his chair, still and silent. Dream! Blue rushed to Dream's side, calling his name with increasing desperation. Dream did not stir, and Blue nearly crushed his phone in his haste to pull it out and call the hospital. A flicker of gray shimmered in his peripheral, and Corfisk appeared, wide-eyed and horrified. Blue wanted to babble about how Dream had been sick and he had not been sleeping well, but Blue had not been paying enough attention. He hadn't even heard him fall from the chair. He set those panicked thoughts aside in favor of a steely calm. Blue took Dream's hand and squeezed it, doing his best not to flinch as he heard sirens approaching. It's gonna be okay, Dream. We're here with you. We're getting you help. You're gonna be okay. Dream's eye sockets opened just enough for Blue to see a sliver of hollow black. He's gone. Blue still did not know who he was talking about. He squeezed Dream's hand gently as medics rushed through the door. I'm sorry. Dream weakly turned his head away and closed his eye sockets. I wonder what this is, guys! I wonder what this link is.
Oh, I wonder what
that
link is.
I wonder what this link is. Right here. I wonder. And I wonder. I could have done better with that voice acting.
No, I think you did good enough.
I think I could have done better. I think I could have been more agonizing. Should we watch the link? Should we pause and watch the link?
Yeah, short intermission. Short intermission.
Yeah, should we watch it? Should we watch it?
You should totally watch it. Plug your channel. Plug your channel.
I think we should watch it, chat.
I see only yeses.
Here, wait.
It's unanimous. Unanimous.
You went from 17 to 5. Nobody fucking wants to watch my video.
They think it's over.
No, we're not done yet. We got 3 more chapters.
2. You said you only wanted.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Probably best because I'm already losing my voice. You can hear it. I voice acted so well in that one.
100%.
100%.
The 3 is crazy.
Oh, I think it dropped because apparently I had a glitch. It just said I had a buffer. So I think I kicked some people out. The people that stayed just have really good internet connection.
You are the chosen ones.
Yes, you made it. You survived. It's back to normal though, so people... Alright. I wonder what this is based on, guys. Let me make sure the volume isn't, like, gonna be fucking insane. Oh, I should probably also pause the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run for your life! Drown in your sorrow and fears. Choke on your blood and your tears. Bleed till you run out of years. We must do what it takes to survive. Give up your honor and faith. Live up your life as a right. Die in the blood where you bathe. We know what it takes to survive. We are the same, you and I.
Yippee! Yippee, guys!
Hey.
I love it!
Yay!
I love it!
Guys, we love this fic, I say, with tears in my eyes.
Oh, it's so good!
We love chapter 28.
Go watch that video, go like it and stuff.
Hit the like button, smash subscribe, and turn on the notification
I don't get
bell.
paid from that video though, but I don't care.
Oh.
Go watch it anyways, because I don't know like what I consumed that day. I think that was like when the saga like finally dropped, like for Scylla. I heard that song, I was like watching like all the animatics for it, and I was like, I sat up in my bed and I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god. And this was during like my break because I had like the worst summer of my life, so I wasn't like posting. And I was not supposed to be making any content. I said I wasn't gonna like draw the whole entire time. I had like I was just taking like a month-long break until I got to college. But I just sat up in my bed and I was like, I need to draw now. I need to draw now. And so I drew this and I sat on this for a good like 2 months. Do you know how hard it was to not post this immediately? I had to wait. I had to wait like with like 4 videos that I made. And I was just like so ooh. I was like desperate to post it, but then I posted it and I was like, whoa. I still rewatch it and I'm still like, wow.
You know that one image of reaction to me lying?
Reaction to me lying. Yeah, true. I still love that video.
I cracked open my Arizona.
I heard that. That was so loud.
It
Choke
did it
on
sound
your-
crisp though? 'Cause
Yes, it
sounded
did.
crisp.
It did.
Yeah.
Choke on your blood and your tears.
I love that song.
It's like I wanted to do the full song, but then I was like, the beginning just doesn't really fit what was going on. I was trying to fit it out. Like, can I somehow tie it into like the Fresh situation with him being like, has like hesitant and like lying, but like that whole scene with like Eurylochus, I couldn't find a way to fit that in, so I just had to cut it right into the drama.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot more long, but I couldn't. The whole song didn't fit, but that part did.
Yep. That's all you needed. That's all you needed. You know what I'm thinking though?
What?
I've been thinking for the past 5 minutes of have you forgotten the lessons I've taught you? That
But,
one.
like a lot more brutal.
Oh. I'm tweaking. I'm gonna calm down.
I remember when I gave this to Buddy, should I show their reaction on stream? Or I think like I've sent a lot of fan art to Buddy, and I'm like obsessed, and they know this very well. I think they like recognize my name every time I send it because I'm like fucking insane. And I'm just like, hey, Buddy, I have another fan art for you. Do you want to see it? But when I sent it, they were like so excited specifically for this. Actually, no, they were most excited when I made the Dreamin' blue animatic for
Oh yeah, I remember that. You were like, should I send this to Buddy? Should I send this to Buddy? Do you think they would like it?
It's low-key gay. I was scared. So they were like so excited. They were so excited. But they got more excited when it was like Dreamin'. Oh, my girlfriend is in chat. You just missed me voice acting for like a good fucking hour and a half. What the hell, Skashu? Get out!
Fake girlfriend.
Fake girlfriend. Anyways, we were supposed to finish at like what? 8 o'clock, so we need to hurry.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Chapter 29. Chapter 29. Welcome to ...
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the panic room. Anyway. We gotta hurry. Immediate. Anyway, the sounds of ragged breathing whispered through the golden air of the doodle sphere. Black dripped from the cracks and chipped white finger bones, staining brown gloves before it fell down to the pool by his bare feet. It was a rarity these days for the ink known as prism to be fully aware of the empty space where his soul once resided, but he felt the sensation now, burning and hollow like a black hole had taken its place. His colors had rapidly drained, yellow had run out long ago, flushed from his system as terror and other negative emotions took control. His calm greens had gone next, leaving him to angrily and hysterically claw at the barrier that kept him out of the Healer Inc.'s multiverse. Soon that desperate anger became desperation alone, leaving him sobbing as he fought to break through a wall only he and a couple others could perceive. Even that grief ran dry, leaving Prism with the compassion and empathy that was both a blessing and a curse. The pain that tore through him made him curl in on himself, screaming as he felt like his now non-existent soul was being torn apart all over again. Arms wrapped around Prism as he fought Nightmare's hold, like Healer had so desperately fought Corrupted, gasping and wheezing with strain as he tried to force his way through the barrier between his multiverse and Healer's again. Another pair of arms joined Nightmare's and Dream's held Prism just as tightly, as though he and his twin's hold were the only thing keeping him together. Stop, Ink, Dream ordered. His voice broke and golden tears fell down his cheeks. You have to stop. Nightmare was silent. His cyan eye light stared into the distance, and the arms that held Prism trembled. He knew what had happened to his counterpart. He knew what the corruption had done to his counterpart's gang, and to his
You know
ink.
that one scene in Harry Potter? It's like, my son, my boy. That's my boy. You know what I'm talking about? This is what this is. Let me through. Let me through.
That's my boy.
my
Oh my god.
boy.
I literally refuse to watch The Goblet of Fire.
It's his baby. It's his
Like,
brother.
willingly because of
Prism
that one
Prism
scene.
and Healer brother arc. Can we have that, guys? Can we have fan art of that, please? Please? Please?
Pain and suffering. You want me dead.
Setro.
Ugh. Anyway, Nightmare was silent. His cyan eyelight stared into the distance, and arms that held Prism trembled. He knew what had happened to his counterpart. He knew what the corruption had done to his counterpart's gang and to his ink. I have to get through, Prism begged. Please let me through. They're hurting so much. I can't help. I can help them. I can. Air appeared in front of him and pressed a mixed vial of paint to his mouth. Prism swallowed the paints on instinct. They all knew better than to think the additional emotions would calm him down. Dream and Nightmare clung to Prism as he screamed, tearing at the barrier that blocked him from trying to enter Healer's multiverse again. And again, he was kept out. Again and again, a warning appeared, visible only to himself and Air. Multiverse contaminated. Terminal malignant corruption detected. Quarantine protocol initiated. Let me help them, Prism howled. His multiverse did not care about his pleas. It would not risk itself or its protector for another multiverse. Prism could not contact Healer through the codes or dreams anymore, or help him heal himself again. The only path of communication that was still open was through the mirror in the Doodle Sphere. Healer was not in the Doodle Sphere. Even if he had gone there, all Prism would be able to do now was try to encourage and comfort him, unable to help as he watched them die. It was a good thing Dream and Nightmare were holding on to Prism. His uncles held him up as his legs failed him, supporting him as he wept.
Another thing I want to point out is I talked about this before because one of my friends asked like what were the flaws of Prism and Healer, because it didn't seem like they had many flaws, like negative flaws, like
Oh, yeah.
and I think one of the main flaws of Prism is that he's diving into situations he's not prepared to handle, and this is a great example of that. Um, we know that his first ever connection is Solus, and Prism is still like pretty young and like mentally he forever will be, and he immediately dives into a situation that is so like really hard to handle and like help with, puts himself fully into the situation to help because his home is now safe, and puts all of his like remaining existence into helping other people now because his place is safe. So he's still showing that negative part of him where he feels like he needs to help everybody. And he needs to like he tells Ink like, "Hey, you can't help everyone. You can't save everyone." And yet he's doing this right now, thinking that like he has to save everyone. Um and this whole scene I think is a great example of some of his negative traits. He was not ready to help out Healer Inc. I'm glad he did because Healer Inc. obviously wouldn't live. But he is also still probably like a newbie. I was talking to my friend about how like regular ink that we all know, classic ink, is probably a lot stronger than Prism himself. So Prism is like the example ink for a lot of these inks with souls or like connections to it. And he is still not ready to fully help them because he still has his own struggles as well. Um so it's like his first person that he wanted to help so badly that he sees himself in, that probably he sees as like family in a way, or like another version of himself, like it's in the mirror because still has a soul. He feels like he's probably failing his younger self, and I feel like there was too much emotional attachment when he got into this mission. Again, not bad. We're so glad that Prism did because oh my god, Healer would be dead, but he was not ready for this. And I think that's one of his negative traits. He is very impulsive. He just immediately started helping, and he put himself too emotionally into the situation and wasn't ready for it. So that's if like you're ever wondering like what are the negative traits of Healer and Prism, because they seem like kind of so like kind and sweet all the time. Impulsiveness is something that they both have, and it's a trait that's shared between them that gets them into a lot of trouble. That's all I have to say.
Side point. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, you did tell me about this though.
Yeah.
I remember. Me remember. Where was I? Break. There it is. Esther couldn't sleep. No matter how much he tossed and turned in his bed, his mind remained active and his wings ached. This was nothing unusual for Esther, who had far too many sleepless nights since his exile. But tonight the dark shadows of his empty apartment haunted him. Eventually he gave up on the idea of getting any rest and put on his day clothes, heading outside. Much like the undergrounds found in most alternate universes, the Omega timeline did not have a true day-night cycle. So the one that most residents followed was purely for scheduling and a sense of normalcy. Unlike those undergrounds, the white sky kept the world lit, causing many homes to come with blackout curtains in order to block it out. Oh, that's an interesting. Okay, no, I can't get
I
distracted
don't really
and talk
like
about.
that world building aspect of the Omega timeline, I'm gonna be real.
Mhm.
But I'm not gonna get into that because we have to focus. It's one of my complaints with it.
Like, oh, that's so interesting. It took a moment for Aster's eyes to adjust to the change in lighting as he stepped out, but he soon headed down the street. He considered making his way towards one of the many recreational areas created for the residents, but did not feel like visiting the Coliseum or the Omega Timeline's own Grillby's. Even the library did not catch his interest tonight. It wasn't unusual for scientists to return to the skyscraper. Skyscraper. Wow. Wait. Skyscraper labs off their shift.
You did it!
I did it! It was a habit of far too many of them to go to work in order to try to distract themselves. Aster wanted to be distracted. His hand closed around the crystal pendant on his necklace. He knew why he couldn't sleep. He did not want to sleep and allow his mind to create nightmares of his brother's deaths again. Aster began wandering around the building and took the long took the long way to his lab just to keep himself moving and to circle far around the energy sector. They were performing core experiments in there, supposedly to try to increase the average output in an attempt to account for the increased numbers of new arrivals. Rumors said they were actually creating core based weapons like bombs. Considering the fates of many Gasters, Aster avoided the area on principle. That is so very interesting. Were not as many scientists in the halls at this time, but Aster still nearly ran into someone. He sidestepped just in time, but Gaster halted in place, avoiding a collision. It would have been a rather nasty one this time, considering he was holding a mug of steaming hot coffee. Or was it hot chocolate? Maybe a mocha? Aster recognized the Gaster involved in the Protector project this time. They had worked with each other long enough now that instead of staring at him in judgmental silence, Gaster appeared to soften. Another sleepless night, Aster? Yes, Aster said briefly. I was hoping to do anything at the moment. Gaster Gaster looked him up and down at the slight crease, and a slight crease appeared on his brow. You shouldn't test anything alone. That's how many Gasters are lost. Aster hummed in agreement. He doubted the multiverse scanners were capable of throwing him into the void, but he admitted Gaster had a point. There were strict restrictions in place to try to avoid any core-like mishaps. Core Frisk was especially insistent about safety. I'm taking a break myself, Gaster continued. I was heading up to the observation platform for some air. Would you like to accompany me? Aster did not know the scientist nearly as well as Stretch and Alphys, but he saw no reason to refuse. Gaster waited patiently for him to get a coffee for himself from the machine before they headed up to the observation platform on the roof. The platform was used for a bit of data collection, but it mostly acted as a place to relax and take in the view of the Omega timeline. So much could be seen from here: the forest, the parks, the waterfall cave, and the power plant, even the massive Coliseum and the guard headquarters. Aster and Gaster, Aster and Gaster, Aster and Gaster both settled on a bench, looking out at the view. It still felt strange to know it was nighttime when the sky was a blinding white. Pardon me if this is invasive, but you've moved in recently, correct? Relatively recently, correct? Gaster asked. I have, yes, Aster murmured. And you? I've been here a long time, in the Omega timeline in this very building. Gaster took a sip of his drink and hummed. The locations have stayed mostly the same, but a lot has changed. The borders have expanded, as have the guards' quarters, and the residential village is more of a city now. How long did you end up in the Omega timeline? Aster asked curiously. He instantly regretted it. Goodness, that was rude. Sorry. It's not an issue, Gaster dismissed. Such questions are to be expected in a place like this.
Are they gay?
It was. Huh?
Are they gay?
Rosa. No.
Why not?
I can't even say anything without spoiling.
I think they're gay.
No. It's not an issue, Gaster dismissed. Such questions are to be expected in a place like this. It was a long time ago. I cannot even say how many years, considering, well, how time works here.
Both his hands curled gently around the mug he held, like he was holding a small bird instead of something inanimate. I, like many other of my alternatives, fell into the core of my world. It ended up saving my life when my world was destroyed. I was left behind in the void. I was the only survivor. I hoped my son, Sans, might have survived as well by using his machine, but it was not meant to be. Aster's voice caught in his throat. His hand twitched, but he forced himself not to reach up to grip the blue crystal pendant at his neck. Gaster looked down at his mug, swirling the liquid. Corfrisk located me, and I moved here. I was quickly recruited by this lab for my knowledge of codes. I used to work with another Gaster who was also well versed in this subject, though he quit due to disagreements with how Dr. Fell was running things. He wasn't a resident here, so I hope he had the option to go home. I'm sorry, Aster said quietly. You have no idea how many times I've heard people say that. How many times that it once felt like old wounds were being torn open again and again. Gaster's chuckles was low and bitter. It's almost maddening to know that another multiverse exists where my world may have been saved, one where a protector exists, and where a destroyer wasn't driven mad with corruption. Aster emphasized with his frustration and sorrow. To say no progress had been made on the protector front would be an understatement. A team of scientists had been unable to view other multiverses since that first attempt. Dr. Felgaster was beginning to genuinely consider if the alternate error had somehow broken their machine from another multiverse. Although the alternate destroyer was nowhere near as malicious as their version, it was a terrifying idea that he was capable of reaching across multiverses to do such a thing. Aster and his team were not privy to most information on how Dr. Fell and the others may be looking for their own version of the Protector that they saw in that other multiverse. He had a feeling that, at the very least, any senses that entered the Omega timeline were quietly checked. It still worried him. Gaster spoke up before Aster could think of what to say. Did you know that under certain circumstances, Arab's blood can be explosive? It took Aster a moment to respond. It
Huh?
can? Air's blood can be explosive?
I forgot about this part. That's still insane to me. Dude, you got fucking exploding blood. That's so sick. My husband's so cool. I looked at my body pillow when I said that, by the way.
I know.
He's staring
you know
at
what?
me.
That's why I laughed, Rosa, because I can imagine you looking at that fucking pillow.
And that is exactly what I did. You got exploding blood, dude. That's so cool.
My husband is so cool.
He is.
You say like he's like a real like thing in your life
He
that
is.
you greet every day.
He is. When will he spontaneously combust? Stop being jealous! Stop being jealous of my body pillow, babe. This is like you can't. Okay?
Why are you talking about other men, Rosa?
Listen. I only call my girlfriend a man when I'm mad at her. I only use he, him pronouns on my gender fluid girlfriend when I'm mad at her.
Because only a man can make you mad.
Exactly.
Fact.
Because only a man will make me mad. She doesn't deserve she, her pronouns when I'm pissed at her. There's 3 in this relationship. You want to get a crossbody pillow, then there's gonna be 4.
What about cross?
Shut up!
I'm gonna die. Oh my god.
No wonder chat's crazy. We take after Rosa. It still makes me shocked that people don't realize I have an error body pillow because I feel like I talk about him every single stream that I do this.
You do. You do.
Gray Shadow, she's had the pillow since I've known her. I've had him since I was 16 years old. I am 18 now. I've had him for 2 years. I don't want a cross one. Oh, but you want a nightmare one? Yeah. 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 I wonder why you would.
I'm fucking dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
Yeah. Shut up!
Yeah.
Now! Error, blink 3 times if you need help. I was thinking of posting this TikTok that I had on my TikTok where it was like, should I bring Error to my home from college? And it's like him puggled in the backseat of my friend's car.
Oh yeah.
I'm dead serious has happened. I need to post it on YouTube. Where do I get it? Loading Craft Crew. Don't do Etsy because it's more expensive.
Anyway, Gaster's expression remained severe. Before we became desperate enough to check on other multiverses for a protector, Dr. Felgaster wanted to see if we could use the Destroyer's blood to make a device or weapon to counter him. Apparently, Error has an old injury that constantly bleeds, so Corfrisk retrieved a sample from the aftermath of one of his attacks, and gave it to us. Attempts to experiment with the destroyer's blood ended badly. Several scientists were killed. His eyelights became distant. We tried to use a piece of the destroyer in our own experiment. It was like the multiverse itself was punishing us for our hubris. I'm sorry, Aster murmured. Lessons were learned, though I cannot say results were worth it, Gaster said flatly, though it was clear he was still caught up in memories. Things are different now. Things are different now than they were back then. Now we know there is a protector. One exists. He looks over the balcony, his eyelights dull. It's fascinating, isn't it? One person can save us. Their power and magic cannot be copied, passed on, or given. It's up to them, and them alone, to repair this multiverse after so many mistakes. He closed his eye sockets and tipped his skull back, as though he did not want to see the white skyline anymore. What a terrible burden to bear. If Aster was honest with himself, he had not thought about that. He had too much to personally worry about, to quietly grieve for, to feel more than a general sense of unease toward Dr. Felgaster's intentions with the possible protector. The idea that such a monster could theoretically fix their multiverse still seemed like a fantasy. Aster did not know what to say to Gaster, so he hesitantly put his hand on his shoulder.
You cut out. Beetle,
Sorry, I
beetle,
didn't
beetle,
cut out.
beetle.
Sorry, I didn't cut out. I heard something upstairs. My bad. I got distracted. Aster did not know what to say to Gaster, so he hesitantly put his hand on his shoulder. Gaster's gaze snapped to the point of contact, but he soon relaxed, nodding in thanks. They did not speak much more, instead splitting in companionable silence as they absorbed the softer atmosphere of the Omega timeline's nighttime. There was no sun to watch rise in the Omega timeline. No celestial bodies showed the passage of time. The light gifted by the sky did not change, and the shadows it cast were just as deep. Break. I'm gonna take a sip of Arizona.
I'm gonna take a sip of my water.
Everyone stay hydrated. Drink your waters and teas and healthy drinks. Anyway. The silence of the darkness was deafening. It wasn't like it was completely quiet, but the lack of power had plunged Hortails underground into a state where the few noises that were left seemed too loud. There was no electric hums of the lighting. Can you hear anything in the background?
No, but can you hear anything in my background? Because my roommates just brought a bunch of people over.
No, I can't hear anything in your background. My family's being loud. Like, all I can hear is my mom yelling.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, good. It wasn't like it was completely quiet, but the lack of power had plunged Hortails by underground into a state where the few noises that were left seemed too loud. There were no electric hums of the lighting or grinding and rumbles of machinery. Instead, it was far too quiet, leaving only the sounds of anxious breathing and distant screams. The soft glow of a bone attack lit up the dark office in Hortail's castle. Its indigo hue was not the best color to pierce the darkness, but it was enough for Cross to see the terrified and drawn faces of others. The bone trembled with Dust's hand, causing the minimal light to quiver with him. Is everyone alive? Excluding you, Paps. I'm unharmed, Toriel said. A ball of fire appeared in her palm and partially illuminated her face. Please, can you help me find one of the oil lanterns? A few more attacks appeared as they tried to search, but both Killer and Horror weren't moving. Cross could see just as well enough to identify the large shape near the desk as Horror, while Killer's loud curses soon gave way to his position. Any humor Cross could cling to, find, from this his reaction was swiftly snuffed out when he understood what Killer was saying. Hark! Respond! Stars, damn it, Ink! Answer me! Horror did not make a sound. The only reason Cross knew he was conscious was due to the faint sliver of red that was his eyelight. His sockets were nearly closed. Was he hurt? Was that a cave-in? Cross asked. His voice sounded too dull and flat to even himself. His attempt at denial did not work. He already knew the answer. They all did. Hortail's core was out, and Nightmare's negativity imprint was the cause. I found the lamps, Toriel interjected briskly. We should only need these for a few We should only need these for a few minutes. We learned from last time. There's an energy generator that will restore some essential power for a time. It should be up within moments. A low hiss of an oil lantern was soon followed by its soft light. Unlike the fluorescent lighting, the lanterns cast dark shadows on the walls and left deep pockets of darkness. The moment would not crash into anything. The moment he would not crash into anything in the darkness, Cross went to horror. Dust had the same idea as they crouched in front of him, checking him for injury. They could only check through sight because their healer was missing in action. Cross refrained from touching Horror's body. Are you okay, big guy? Horror's eye sockets opened slightly wider. His dazed look in them remained. He's gone. Cross did not know if he was talking about Ink, Nightmare, or both. We'll get him back. What happened out there? Toriel's demand rang out so suddenly that Killer flinched and summoned a knife. He recognized her a moment later and stepped back, letting the attack vanish. Nightmare corrupted. He hired Ink to punish us, broke his bones, and beat him up. Ink got him away from us, and Corrupted released the negativity imprint in Hortail, making the core break down. Ink was so injured he panicked and teleported off to who the hell knows where. Killer covered his eye sockets with his hands. He could be bleeding out in some genocide timeline right now. Ink has survived worse. Dust tried to console him. Only because Prism held his soul together. Killer snapped. We can't help Ink now. The realization left such a bitter taste in Cross's mouth that he felt like he was going to throw up. We need to reinforce our position here. Ink's block worked. It kept Corrupted out. If he could get in, he'd be here already. We have to fix the core. Emotions had to be put aside. The gang could not panic or grieve over their boss's fate or Ink's injuries. They needed to act now before they lost the fragile safe haven they still had. Nightmare might have been tempted to threaten Hortail to coax the gang out. Corrupted would just slaughter his way through the populace and take the gang by force. Nightmare has corrupted, truly corrupted, and he wants to corrupt us. Cross's hand quivered when he pressed it to his sternum. Toriel did not waver at the news of Nightmare's corruption, though her hands clenched together so tightly that Hor could see them shaking. The generator power only lasts a few days. Cross had never been a scientist like some of the others, but he knew what they had to do next. Then we get the parts to fix the core. But can we fix the core? Cross knew he was not the only one to think it, but none of them asked that out loud. Perhaps. Horror called his brother's name faintly. His breathing was sharp, and the glow of his eyelids flickered. Sorry, I'm not laughing at the story. Something I heard just now.
Oh.
His breathing was sharp, and the glow of his eyelids flickered. Where's Paps? He's safe, Sans, Toriel said firmly. He is here with us. Her phrasing seemed a bit off to Cross. When he saw Horror's expression, as though he was half trapped in a memory, he understood that saying Paprika was here at the castle, formerly Undyne's castle, might not go over well. Killer crouched at Horror's elbow and hesitantly put his hand on his arm. Horror's gaze snapped to him, his eyelids glowing a violent red. But he soon recognized Killer and relaxed. Dust rocked back and forth, clutching at his scarf. You're right, Phantom. What if the citizens panic and rebel again? I will keep them as calm as best I can. That blast may have caused a cave-in. Toriel's head was held high, and her gaze was sharp and focused. I fear that retrieving the replacement parts will be up to you. Trading for what we need may not be possible right now, correct? The gang looked to each other. The possibility that they would have to attack a world in order to get what they needed was always there, but none of them were very enthusiastic about it. Even Killer was unhappy with the idea. Huh. Maybe Ink was a good influence on them after all. Maybe not. Dust's hood shadowed his face. Dusttail had a working core when I left. Something new did too, right? Killer's disconcerted expression hardened into a resolved look, and he nodded. We'll take the extra parts we need from something new, Dust decided. And maybe we should leave Dusttail's intact in case we need to go there. I can use a token to go, prepare, and make it more citizen-friendly. If they had to move to Dusttail, Hortail's people might be safe. The gang would not be. In fact, they would not be going with Toriel and the others. The look on the gang would neither I'm sorry. The gang would not be what? Where am I?
Horror tells people might be safe. The game would not be.
Oh, yeah. The gang would not be. In fact, they would not be going with Toriel and the others. The look on Dust and Killer's face said they both understood what they'd need to do if they could not fix Hortail's core. It felt like Cross's soul was trying to break apart in his chest. Dust, you don't have to. I'm willing, Dust growled. Because like hell, we're going to let Hortail's people die now. The brats are gone. They're not coming back. We need to move there to survive. Then we move. Hor pulled himself out of his state of fear and looked up at Dust from his position on the ground. Thank you, Dust. Sure. Dust pulled his hood up a little further. Forward. Oh my god. Where am I? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
They're so loud, it's like frying me.
Horror pulled himself out. Thank you, Dust. Cross, get what you can.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure. Dust pulled his hood up a little further forward, casting the top of his face in shadow. Cross, get what you can from Marketail Gerson's first.
New Yorker! Get what you can from Morgantail.
Killer had a knife out and was playing with it, but Cross recognized it as a nervous tick instead of something malicious. Let's hope Ink's shields hide you from corrupted. Cross did not waste any more time and began changing into his complete guard uniform. Toriel and her royal guards politely looked away, but they were all past the point where any of them cared enough to feel embarrassed. Time was not on their side. Despite the urgency and the anxious eyes watching him, it took Cross a moment to summon his pack knife. He stared at the purple blade and swallowed roughly, trying not to think too much about the images Corrupted had forced upon him in Dreamtale. Cross was fine. He had just seen hallucinations of his loved ones, wounds on their bodies and their eyes glowing purple as Ex-Gaster directed them like they were undead marionettes. In the daytime, I'm here. But they were just that, hallucination. Not real. That hallucination was not what made Cross's hands tremble as he readied his knife. Horror had nearly run headfirst into Corrupted's visible aura to try to save Ink, a move that would have likely killed him. Cross had stopped him with his magic. It must have been a bone attack that was blurred and warped by the grip that his hallucinations had on his mind. That was it. That was the reason. Because for a moment, Cross had sworn the magic that halted Horror's charge had taken the shape of a vibrant purple hand. You are in control, Cross thought. It's just an illusion. You are in control. He cut open the portal to Marketail and stepped through. I'll be right back.
Do you want me to read for you? Hello? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read while they're gone because
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
I told you I'd be right back. I just had to scream.
What did you say? Just shut up?
Hey guys. No, I was really nice. I can't be mean to them. I said, hey guys, can we stop yelling?
Did it work?
I don't know. We'll find out. Paprika found Horror in the castle's kitchen. An empty pot sat on the countertop next to the stove. It could be lit with magic, unlike the temporary generators that left some of the lights on. There were no ingredients on the counters that were ready to go into the pot. They remained hidden away in the cupboards in the fridge. Horror did not remember what he had intended to make. He did not remember coming here or how he convinced the cooks to give him this space. Paprika pushed the empty pot away and gave his brother a hug. It took a moment for Horror to remember how to return it. He kept his eye sockets open so he did not close them and see his brother starving and Ink dying at Nightmare's feet. The dark images that Corrupted forced upon him beckoned him towards the edge, whispering to just let go. To help Paps, to save Ink, to bring Nightmare back, just give in and let go.
Beetle, you cut out.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, at the
Where?
just let go. So you have to start at to help Paps.
Okay. To help Paps, to saving, to bring Nightmare back, just give in and let go of sanity again. Become the monster to protect them. Horror had crossed that line, but he came back. He stayed. With the gang's help, Inks, and Nightmares. Nightmare was the lost one now. Horror did not need corruption to join him. He was already on the verge of falling into his own personal hell. They were going to be all right, Sans. Sorry, we're going to be all right, Sans. Paprika hugged him tighter. Do not lose hope. Horror did not reply. His eye sockets remained open and blank. Dream was cold. Actually, let me take a sip of Arizona. My throat dried out. Fuck. Anyway. Dream was cold, even though he could feel a type of fabric covering his body. A blanket? It felt too heavy on his bones, pressing and stinging wherever it brushed against them, yet it did not ward off the chill. Dream tried to lift his eye sockets, but only managed to get them halfway open before they slipped closed once more. A scalding hot hand grasped his own, and he flinched. The hand immediately released him, and he felt a rush of joy and worry from its owner. Dream? Can you hear me? It's Blue. Blue was there. He was worried. Because of Dream? That was unacceptable. Dream fought his exhaustion and forced his eye sockets open. Blue's relief shone in both his aura and his face. You're awake! Thank the stars! He smiled, but there were tears in his eye sockets, and his emotions were a mess. Dream blinked at him and focused on the pastel yellow wallpaper behind him. He looked around a bit more belatedly, and belatedly understood he was in a hospital bed. He was also attached to several machines that tracked his vitals. Oh, that wasn't good. Where? The faintness of his voice shocked even himself, and he went quiet. Sorry. You're in the hospital in Surface Home City in Underswap, Blue explained. You collapsed at home about 5 hours ago. Your vitals didn't tank or anything, but you passed out. The doctor said to let you rest. Your illness isn't something they can help with. Sadness ripped through his aura like a gaping wound, and Dream shivered. I saw your soul. Oh, no wonder Blue was so worried. Dream was too tired to do anything more than shut his eye sockets. Sorry. There's no need to apologize, though now I, the Magnificent Sans, can support you a bit better now that I know. Blue wrestled with his fear and grief, focusing on the positive for both his and Dream's sake. I haven't called Stretch yet. He's at work, napping, I'm certain. They both knew Stretch would not be napping. Dream bit back a protest that Stretch did not need to leave work for his sake. He would do it in a heartbeat, Dream knew, and not as an excuse to be lazy. Stretch would pretend otherwise but he cared so much. It shone in his aura whenever he saw Dream. Stars, Dream did not know how he could ever deserve to call these brothers his friends. Blue fiddled with his gloves, tugging at the cuffs. Do you know what happened? Dream remembered Blue was making breakfast. He also remembered feeling horrible for several days before his collapse. However, the collapse itself wasn't anything dramatic. He simply fell. Something happened with Nightmare. I think the balance finally broke. I don't think it can be fixed. Tears filled his eye sockets before he could stop them. Dream turned away from Blue and took it in a shuddering breath. He had been coping with his loss for years, but he could tell that something had changed for the worse with his brother. Perhaps irreversibly. Dream did not know what it was, but the pain in his soul was more agonizing than ever, and he could barely gather the energy to move. It was just a shock, Dream told himself. You have to keep fighting for Blue, for the multiverse, for Ark, for yourself. Don't even think about giving up now. Another presence appeared within the room, accompanied by a new aura of worry, relief, and a small bit of joy to see Dream awake. Corfrisk sat on the edge of Dream's hospital bed and put their hands on his. Unlike Blue's had, it felt unnaturally hot. It was not that their temperature was too high. Oh, like Blue's had. I'm stupid. Like Blue's had, it felt unnaturally hot. It was not that their temperature was too high, Dream realized. They felt too warm because he was too cold. Sorry I'm late. I'm so glad you're okay, Dream.
Actually, fun fact, Corfrisk does not give out any warmth or coldness because their physical form cannot actually be held for a very long time because it's not really that stable.
I'm sorry. Did you just actually
So that's not true
Oh.
and accurate. Just needed to let everyone know. My nose is bleeding. Hold on.
How did Rosa actually too hard. Her nose started bleeding. That's crazy. Oh. Make sure this is okay.
Sorry I'm late. I'm so glad you're okay, Dream. Poor Frisk squeezed his hands, much like Blue did. What did you need us to do? Dream did not know how to gently say what he needed to. I don't think there's anything that can be done, Frisk. Their face fell and tears welled up in their empty eyes. You're not dying. Both Blue and Dream flinched. Dream managed to lift his arms and gathered Core Frisk into a tight hug. They made a soft, wounded noise and buried their face in his neck. Dream realized he was still wearing his usual clothes. It seemed the hospital expected him to be a temporary patient. He would be. I'm not dying, Dream agreed. But something has changed. I'm not sure how much help I will be. You'll be plenty of help by getting better, Core Frisk insisted. We should move you to a hospital in the Omega timeline. Golden Rune Medical Center should be best. They have the most specialists. Maybe we can bring in Sai. They can help you, surely. Dream did not have the heart to tell them Dream did not have the heart to tell them that he might not get better. The tiredness and aches in his bones made him feel like he was one soft breeze from falling over. He refused to fall over. Too many people needed him to keep standing. We need to be careful. If residents see me like this, they'll lose more hope. I'll get you in without notice, Core Frisk said. They become much more vibrant now that they had a plan. Just let me. I will get you. Core Frisk trailed off and went still. Dream recognized the look they got when they were seeing somewhere else. Slowly, their empty eyes widened and they rose from their seat. Blue, tell the doctors to release Dream and prep him to transfer to the Golden Rune Medical Center in Omega Timeline. I'll be right back. They vanished without a word. Somebody just. Oh. Sorry, I got distracted. Anyways. Consciousness returned to Ink in stages. The first sentence to return to him was touch. The first sense to return to him was touch, and the pain that came with it. He did not need a scan to know several of his bones were broken and bleeding in spite of his wounds. Ink did not move to make a sound, remaining on his side. His memories of what happened in Dreamtale had not faded, no matter how much a part of him wished they would. Hortail's code stung but still remained. Ink had no idea where he was. He did not feel any restraints, but in his condition, he wasn't going anywhere. He needed to heal. Depending on where he was and who he was nearby, that could end very badly for him. He had to get away. Tentacles tore across Ink's back and snapped his bones like twigs. Ink heard a rustle of fabric. His soul reacted, beating anxiously. He carefully, you know what? There's a spot on my glasses that's been making me mad this whole time. So I'm gonna
What? I zoned out. What?
Oh, there's been this huge spot on my glasses that keeps distracting me. I'm just tired of it, so I'm wiping it right now.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I thought I could ignore it, but I can't. My bad.
Morg says I have 200 hours of Apex on my Steam account, but I've never played Apex.
Maybe somebody else used your account to play Apex.
But no one else has my account.
You sure?
Yeah. Last played 2022. I've never played Apex.
Huh. Imagine you did though. Look.
I don't remember ever playing Apex.
You never know. 2022 was a crazy time. What if you played it and
I
you
don't
just
think
don't
so.
remember? You blocked it out of your memory. Anyway.
Where am I? Oh, it is. This is so much better. Ink heard a rustle of fabric. His soul reacted, beating anxiously. He carefully opened his eye sockets a slit to try to see where he was, but all he saw was darkness and a faint glow from behind him. The eye sockets felt sticky, probably from blood. His eye sockets felt sticky, probably from blood. At least he had not gone blind. I know you're awake. Apparently, Ink had looked in the wrong direction. He tried to move his head, but a hand lay on his cheek, keeping him still. I wouldn't do that. You're pretty beat up. The owner of the hand shifted into Ink's view. He got a clear look at him. Gino, mostly resembled the average Sans, except for the red scarf, melting eye socket, minor glitches, and the large gash across his chest. The eye socket did not prickle at Ink's senses, but the slash put them on high alert. He tried to lift his hands only for the pain in his arm and ribs to make his vision darken. Don't move, Gino urged as he crouched in front of Ink. You can't die in this place, but I don't want to know how much blood you can lose.
Ink doesn't even
No.
realize how smart he was by teleporting here.
Why?
Because he can't die here.
Oh, that's so true.
And he's
I
bleeding
forgot-
like he should be dead. Like he should fucking be dead. I'm pretty sure it's even mentioned that he was low-key like dusting a little bit in the
Yeah,
past
that's
AU.
true.
Like she should be dead. But he teleported to the save screen, he can't die.
Oh, that's so true. You know what? Part of me like keeps forgetting that he can die in this fic.
Yeah, he
because
can
of his
die.
soul.
He's not
Even though that's like important. It's a really important aspect of his character that I keep forgetting.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. He's so
That's
smart.
important. A line of red dripped from inks from Gino's mouth. Black trickled much more thickly from Ink's. He remembered Corrupt's vicious assault and choked on a noise that could be her heartbroken cry or a frustrated scream. Sorry. You're in the save screen of Aftertale Neutral Judgment Hall. Judgment Hall. Those words all mesh together. Gino's smile was empty. Welcome to hell. And Ink coughed up more blood. Black blood. Gino's expressions crumpled. He turned away as glitches gathered over his melted right eye socket, concealing it again. I can't help you. I'm sorry. Ink tried to reach for Gino again and noticed that several of his phalanges were fractured. His torn gloves might be holding the bones in place. Ink closed his eye sockets and inhaled shakily. Focused. Patient needs assistance. Area unstable. Hurts. Might pass out. Maybe too risky to attempt green magic. What supplies do you have? His black belt, left holster, and a large portion of his clothes had been ripped off during the attack. His scarf was mostly undamaged, if a little stained with black, and despite the circumstances, Ink was so glad Gino had not used it to try to wrap some of his wounds. Ink's satchel remained hanging from his right thigh by a couple of threads. That left him with the contents of the front pocket and the main section. Did he have anything to help? Ink remembered that the syringe of determination was in there, with the empty emotion vials, and shuddered. No, that pocket remained closed. What about the other pouch? His eyelids moved to Gino's tired face, and he forced out his request. Bag. Gino leaned close to try to hear him. Even in this empty place, Ink's voice was barely audible. It was too weak, but Gino managed to hear him. I couldn't open it, Gino said quickly. Ink did not make another sound. Even the pressure of a hum was too much for his throat. Then again, Corrupted had thrown him around by his neck and choked him. Ink tried to keep calm and focus on Gino's presence. It felt familiar. A little glitched, but not in the chilling way of the corruption. It was that chest wound that bothered Ink the most. He wasn't sure he could heal here. It could act like the anti-void and drain all his energy. Ink set aside those fears in favor of sinking to Gino's magic. He directed it so he could unlock the satchel, then remembered he still had the small first aid kit he carried everywhere. He unlocked that too. Neck. Gino was horrified. Is your neck broken? Ink did not think so, but it certainly hurt. Bag. Kit. Gino's expression cleared. He carefully moved Ink's scarf and leapt back with a startled yell. Ink flinched, confused by his reaction, then saw something black slither up Gino's arm. Two somethings, in fact. They're alive! Black snakes split their tails and locked Gino's arms and hands in place. They stared at him, one with empty black eyes and the other with glowing cyan and purple ones. Ink realized that they must have detached themselves and hidden in his scarf when Corrupted ripped apart his coat. Now they lashed out
They
to defend him.
hid! They were scared! They were scared!
They're just babies. They're just babies.
Imagine your snake
You
being
know what?
scared and hiding.
I
As you're
love
like
these.
getting beaten by like your boss.
You know, fun fact about snakes: they can't
What?
feel love.
Well,
They
these
can't
can.
feel or care about anything, and that makes me sad. I have a snake, and I'm like, damn.
They can
If
feel
I
love. These ones
died,
can feel love. These ones can't feel love.
yeah, that's why I love them so much because they can. They can. They can.
They
feel
love
love.
Ink.
They're
Because
not like
Ink is a
"Come on,
Disney princess.
I love them dearly. This blood. Where? Ink realized they must have detached themselves and hidden in his scarf when Corrupted ripped apart his coat. Now they lashed out to defend him. Did they see Gino as another error? Gino nervously eyed the serpents, who stared back neutrally as their tongues flicked. I'm not gonna hurt them, little pals. The black-eyed snake's tongue flicked again, and it slowly unwound itself from around Gino's
We
arm.
love an ally who does not assume someone's pronouns. We love an ally!
We love it, we love it, we love it. The purple and cyan-eyed one hissed in warning, but copied its twin. Ink was just relieved that it had not tried to bite Gino, considering the negative emotion magic in its fangs that managed to kill him. Ooh, that would be unfortunate. Or it could corrupt him if it messed with his codes. If air was what? If air was susceptible to corruption, Gino certainly was. Ink remembered tentacles, claws tearing at and snapping at his bones, and stopped thinking about the corruption. Gino lowered his arms to let the snake slither down. His movements were slow and gentle, careful not to cause them harm. Ink could not picture Air acting with such tenderness as he was now, though he knew the destroyer could. Even given the chance, he had to save himself before he could think about saving anyone else. The snakes curled in the collar of Ink's scarf again, watching warily. Gino tenderly lifted the string that held the bag over Ink's head and opened it, reaching inside. Okay, first aid kit. Right. He stared uncomprehendingly at the bottle he pulled out. I don't know what to do with any of this. It's been years. Ink could tell Gino was on the verge of panicking. He remained calm and focused for them both. What? Butorphanol. Butorphanol. Painkiller. It's painkiller. I can't say that word. Gino nodded and picked through the kit before taking out a labeled syringe. Ink's anxiety spiked
Ink is
as he
like
recalled.
on the brink of dying, and he's able to say this fucking weird ass name of his fucking. Okay, dude.
Of the
Freaking-
painkiller? Bro could have just said painkiller.
He's like painkiller.
No, he has to be like autistic and tell you the exact scientific name. Pharmaceutical name.
Funny story. I was reading a book, and in it, Killer tortures and traumatizes Ink, but at least he respects Ink, calling them them by they them pronouns. That's so real of Killer. Also, Barnacle posted her part of the "Will You Fall in Love with Me Again" in No Mic that you can.
I'm
look at
so
later.
excited. I'm
That
so
you can look at
excited.
later.
I'm so excited.
Raid!
I'm sorry. Gino stared at the needle and swallowed. Oh, I skipped things. Gino nodded and picked through the kit before taking out a labeled syringe. Ink's anxiety spiked as he recalled that the painkiller also acted as a mild sedative, but it was the best option he had available. Gino stared at the needle and swallowed nervously. He forced a smile to try to mask his nerves. That's not what I expected. Are you a healer or something? Ink managed a small nod. Gino's eyelights went out and his face went blank. What kind of a person beats up a healer? He violently shook his head. Not the time. Keep your cool, Gino. He continued to mutter to himself as sweat beaded on his brow. You got this. It's not determination. You got this. Ink realized he was probably used to speaking out loud, considering no one else was usually there to hear him. Forcibly non-binary. Gino's hands shook as he took the cap off of the syringe. Ink was already in so much pain that he did not feel the prick of the needle. Ink's teeth chattered and his hands shook, but the effect was not immediate. It would take approximately 15 minutes for the painkiller to take hold, if it did. Ink managed to turn his hand so he could see the smaller timer clock on his torn
Dude,
glove.
I don't know if a fucking painkiller is gonna fix all. Like, you were body slammed into the ground multiple times and your ribs fucking broke. I don't think one singular painkiller is really gonna help you at all.
Maybe it's strong painkiller.
But even
Injected
that,
in-
he has ribs broken.
Yeah.
When you're in the hospital, you need like constant painkillers going throughout your body because you're in so much pain after like going through like a surgery.
Yeah. Maybe he's just better. Loki.
He's just better. He's better.
just
He's
built
stronger. He is better.
He is better. The regular cock wasn't moving. As Ink stared, hoping and begging the painkiller to take effect, the timer began to tick. It felt so slow, as though it was being forced to move along. Gino put the syringe aside with unnecessary force, like he had barely kept himself from throwing it. I don't know if that'll help. Ink could only blink lethargically at him, shivering. Gino made a stressed noise and abruptly took off his hoodie. Taking extra care to not brush against anything, he gently laid it over Ink. The light pressure of the fabric couldn't exactly make Ink hurt more, so he appreciated the effort, even if he still felt cold. With that done, Gino's hands waved slightly, like he was trying to find a part of Ink that did not show damage. He gave up and let them fall into his lap. Stars, I'm worthless. Ink could relate to his feelings of inadequacy. He lay quietly in place, only keeping his eye sockets open so he'd blink, and Gino could tell he was still conscious. The pain throughout his body slowly dulled, and he struggled to stay awake. He had to at least heal his skull. He had managed to heal his chest before, albeit with Prism's help. Surely he can manage this. The painkiller finally took effect. It was not perfect, but it was enough that Ink could force his body to move without wanting to pass out. He raised his hand to his head, sending muffled joints of pain up his wrists and an arm all the way up to his shoulder. He pushed through it, breathing as evenly as possible as Gino gave an alarmed exclamation. At least he did not try to grab Ink's hand. That would hurt. Ink awkwardly laid his hand against his skull, feeling more than seeing the soft glow of green magic. Gino might have gasped, but he wasn't sure. The timer on his glove ticked onward, but the clock remained still. 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30. Progress was slow, but it was possible. The fog in Ink's mind receded a little, though he remained dazed, and he shakily repeated the process on his throat so he could speak. Ink slowly placed his damaged arm at his side and gulped in a shuddering breath. He would drain himself before he managed to heal himself completely here. The painkiller would not last forever. It would be hell once its numbing agent wore off. Ink tried not to think about how it or how he got his injuries in think about it or how he got his Ink tried not to think about it or how he got his injuries in the first place. He moved only his eye light so he could look at Gino's tired face. Thanks. Gino leaned in close again in order to hear him. His smile was so forced it looked painful. No problem. I'm glad I could help. Even if you couldn't do very much here. His face fell. You won't die, but you might be stuck with your injuries. You picked a really bad spot to try to heal, kid. Ink purposely did not think about the tentacles and claws that tore at and broke his bones. He did not think about Nightmare, the gang, or what happened in Dreamtale because if he did, he knew if he did, he would hyperventilate, pass out, and help nobody. Didn't mean to, just had to get away, Ink mumbled. He managed a weak smile of his own. I had a bad week. If you want to kill me too, could we maybe reschedule it or something? A startled laugh burst out of Gino. His cheeks flushed and he coughed into his glove. I shouldn't have laughed. You avoided my question, Ink teased, his voice faint and feeble. I'm sure I can fit another murder attempt into my calendar if you like. You have some dark humor, kid, Gino said dryly. Not that I'm any better. The name's Gino. I'm Ink. Ink froze in terror, then squeezed his sockets shut. It doesn't matter. I'm Ink. Nice to meet you. Likewise. I didn't expect any guests, so sorry for the lackluster accommodations. Gino tried to appear casual and utterly failed. You are the first person I've talked to in a long time. Sorry, Ink apologized. Gino's confusion shifted into concern. You don't have to apologize? He did not know that Ink had seen him a while ago, but hadn't gone to save him. He hadn't known that he had to save Gino, or that Gino was actually there. But Ink was here now.
He was here and so badly injured that he was not sure he could get out of the save screen. He was so badly injured that because of the corruption that had taken control of his boss's body and beaten him to the verge of death. Ink's breathing felt sharp in his ribcage, like he was inhaling shards of glass along with air. He stared at the hoodie that Gino had laid over him. There were black stains all over it. The sight made Ink want to cry. Or maybe he already wanted to cry. I ruined it. Huh? Gino barely glanced at the hoodie. Oh, it's already stained. It's fine. Ink blinked rapidly so the tears in his eyes sockets would not fall. His chest burned with every breath. I don't know if I can get out. I'm sure you can. Did Gino really think so, or was he trying to comfort Ink? When you do, try to appear by the hospital. I know you're a healer, but it's a miracle you managed to repair your skull as much as you did. Get help.
I really love Gino so much, but he is
Yeah.
not this nice of a person in his comic. He is an asshole in his
No,
comic.
he
He is such a
terrible.
dick. He is such a dick. And I love his portrayal in FTFO. And maybe he's super nice because like, why would you be mean to a guy that's already like on death's door, you know? So that could be a possibility.
Real.
But he like stays nice to everyone throughout the fic, and so I'm just like, this ain't Gino. This ain't Gino. Again, he thinks that Ink is probably like a kid and he's like dying, he's hurt.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for him to be nice to Ink. But at the same time, he's so nice throughout the whole entire fic to everybody when he should. That is not Gino, dude. That is not my Gino. Gino would be a dick.
Maybe I'm thinking about it. Isn't the world he's like connected to like open to the multiverse?
Yeah. So he watches
Maybe
it
that
all.
has something to do with it. Like seeing that his world is like free from the resets.
Maybe, but at the same time, he's a manipulative person in his comic. He's not so much that in here. And you don't need to.
Better.
I'm a hypocrite for saying like, oh, you need to make it like canon, but FEFO tries to do that, and I find it really funny. He is nothing like his canon at all. I'm thinking that maybe they're thinking like, oh, Gino's like the nicer and kinder version of Error before he got turned. But Error is who he is because Gino was like that. Because Gino's an asshole. Because Gino was a shithead. So when Error turned crazy, he still had his Gino traits. Error is an asshole because Gino was an asshole. So, you know.
He's healed, Rosa. Rosa, he's healed.
He meets Ink and then suddenly becomes such a nice person.
Oh, that's what literally though. What would he? Not
Disney
just meeting-
princess.
I'm thinking of. So in this, in For the Forgotten Ones, Error was once Gino, and he turned into Error. So maybe
Yeah.
that was just like an asshole version of Gino, and this version is just like he's
But
better
they're all
now.
supposed to be assholes. Also, there's no Frisk. Buddy
Yeah.
is really interesting because they don't include a lot of Frisk in their stuff. Like, we don't have Eliza in Horrortale at all. And there's no explanation why,
Yeah.
like, Eliza is not in this variant of Horrortale. Like, it's really weird. You could argue that he was grabbed before Eliza fell down and prevented Eliza from falling down. But at the same time, it's not Horrortale if Eliza doesn't fall down. And then we don't see Frisk, like, in the save screen with Gino. For some odd reason. Because he's not the only one that's trapped there. Frisk is too. People forget about that. And, like, when people make AUs where he's the only one trapped in there, that's just not true, because they're both trapped. Frisk and Gino are trapped, and they don't get free until they both get free.
I did forget that. Not gonna lie, I did forget Frisk was also trapped.
Yeah, like, Frisk is supposed to be trapped there, and they're supposed to have a very weird dynamic where, like, Gino kind of hates them, but is also, like, nice to them. But they're
Huh.
not here. He's just alone.
It has been years since I've actually read the comic, like actually.
And then
years.
Eliza isn't there in Horrortale. She's not there. There's no talk of Frisk in Horrortale. Like, it's really interesting. I'm not bashing because it's obviously supposed to be about the Sanses, but I find it really interesting that they picked all the avenues of not including Eliza or Frisk because, I mean, I feel like Buddy does not shy away from making, like, kids kind of sweet, you know? And, like, having that moment in the, I mean, we've literally read Prism. So it's really interesting that they didn't include, like, a young Eliza. Again, not complaining, it's just an observation. Maybe every human ever just died. Then why do we have humans on the council of the Omega timeline?
Maybe they're robots. You ever think of that, Rosa? What if they are AI?
True. True. I'm pretty sure they died. Probably. It could just be like all the scenarios that like Ink is running into, like maybe Horatel specifically picked because Horror doesn't have Eliza yet, and then was barred from having Eliza fall down. Maybe Gino that he's running into purposely does not have Frisk in that. Who knows? You know, like, who knows? I just think it's interesting. Read Discord? Okay. What are you gonna yell at me for? Oh! Well, yeah, but they add a lot of Karas. That's true, it might be because... Yeah. Do you want me to read this out loud, Dealer? It could be because the Frisk are players. I know it breaks out the fourth wall and whatever, but because the humans are controlled by players, so like their decisions could vary and be reset, which could change the story. Cars are not controlled though. Which could be true.
Depending on the Kara.
Yeah. That is true. Because Aftertale specifically has a big player influence. But then, slight spoilers, but he doesn't ever have like an actual scene, so I'm just gonna say it. We get a snippet and a mention of player existing, underplayer, in Ftfo. Who is an actual player that has codes and can interfere. So, no, that doesn't add up, actually. That doesn't add up. We see a snippet of player. He's described in one of the chapters. He never gets a scene, he never talks, but he's there, and it's implied that he is friends with Core Frisk.
He exists.
So no!
He's real to me.
He's real to me. So, that's not true.
Listen to me. In the OG Underplayer comic, the player is guiding the controlled Frisk. The Frisks are being controlled.
Interesting.
If Undertale is canon, that same thing applies.
I guess.
Her sister was a
Was
witch.
But that would imply that Core Frisk would have to have been controlled in their timeline before they fell down. I mean, like, fell into the core, or got pushed. Because they are Frisk, and all Frisk are controlled in Ftfo. But that's not true. Her sister was a witch, right? And what was her sister? Core Frisk is literally an enigma. I know, but at the same time, Core Frisk was still a Frisk. So that world building doesn't make sense. If we put 2 and 2 together. No, also, in this Aftertale that is mentioned, guys, let's remember. Because we're talking about Aftertale in Ftfo, right? The one that we were talking about that's public.
Mm-hmm.
Frisk is mentioned to exist in this. And is taken care of by Torio. Who is the new queen. That's public to the multiverse. That's why it's public to the multiverse. Because she wants to help other people. But Frisk exists. And Frisk is still a child and lives with Torio. So they're not controlled. And they're implied to be an asshole, of course. But, like, you know. Aftertale Frisk is out there doing their own thing. And I respect them for that. They are living their life. Off screen. But, like, that implies that Frisk exists. Also, Eliza isn't controlled really by the player. There's not really a genocide route in Horrortale. So why is Eliza not here? I'm beefing with Doodler in Discord, by the way.
Oh, I couldn't tell.
This is so confusing. Eliza never fell down in Ftfo. Maybe she's dead. I can see that.
Maybe it's just an alternate timeline where Liza
Did
just
you think
doesn't
about that? It's just interesting that Frisk and like the people like Eliza are just like not mentioned at all. Just because. And I guess it could break the story a bit. I killed her myself. But like I guess it can make sense a little bit, but at the same time I'm like it doesn't. Like it's time to play Poppy? No, it's not. I said 8 p.m. Get the fuck out.
It's 10 minutes till 8, Rosa.
8 p.m. Central Time, dumbasses.
Oh, I'm stupid. My bad.
We got an hour. Here, wait. You finish reading.
Yeah. Let me finish this damn chapter.
Where were we? Anyway, Gino's smile was fake again. Sure, kid. It was a bit difficult to believe that Air and Gino were based off the same sands, but Ink could see some similarities in between them. There was an undercurrent of regret and melancholy to them both. Ink had to help. But first he had to get out of here. Somehow. Now that Ink was less than a risk of immediately passing out, he paid more attention to his surroundings. The soft glow behind him was from the shattered save menu floating in the darkness. Ink recalled that Frisk had reset, and felt another swell of compassion for Gino's situation. How horrible it must have been for his trust to be broken by the human and wind up back here as a result. Ink's thoughts turned to the gang and his breathing quickened again. Then he remembered that he had kicked Corrupted out of Dreamtale before he accidentally ended up here. Corrupted had not physically attacked them, and he should be unable to get into Horrortale for now. The others should be safe, hopefully. Ink still had his scarf and the defenses he'd attached to it, and his bracelet was still wrapped around it. He tried to activate the communicator and was unsurprised when nothing happened. You still awake, Ink? Gino asked tightly.
The next
Yes,
chapter is
fine.
spilled ink just dropped, by the way.
What?
I gotta calm. Anyway.
Finish reading, and then you can read it when we
Why would
play
you
Poppy Playtime.
why would you do this to me, Rosa?
Because you're gonna find out anyways. Chat's talking about it.
No spoilers.
Yes, sorry. Ink's eye sockets felt heavy. Can I sleep? I don't think that's a good idea. The bead of red liquid dripped from Gino's left eye socket. Listen, you need to gather whatever energy you have and get out of here before it's too late. I don't want you to die for eternity. Ink suspected he was right. If he fell unconscious here, who knew when he'd wake, and if he'd ever would. He could theoretically be trapped in a cycle of unconsciousness and being too unaware to do anything about his situation. His fingers twitched. Gino laid a hand beside Ink's, not daring to hold on to it, and caused him more pain. You're leaving with me, Ink rasped. Gino shook his head and tapped the melting part of his skull. I'll die out there, Ink. Determination will melt me within hours. Ink recognized the stubborn set of his jaw. Unfortunately for Gino, Ink was just as stubborn. He gathered his breath so he could speak without coughing or faltering. I stabilized you. I can stabilize you when we get out. If not, the Omega timeline is within a pocket dimension meant to preserve codes. It's run by Core Frisk. You won't deteriorate there. Yeah, I've heard of him. Gino hedged.
Oh, I was about to ask like an idiot, like, how did he hear of them? Duh, he can watch. Duh. Duh, his AU is fucking open to the whole entire world. Duh. Okay, I'm stupid.
Yeah? Okay. Ink focused on what was most important. I got in here. I'll get us out. Together. Gino hesitated. You really think... His stubborn will was replaced by fear, uncertainty, and a sense of hope so fragile that the slightest touch would break it. No, just help yourself. Forget about me. No, Ink rasped. I'm doing it. He turned his hand and grabbed Gino's. His hold was so weak that Gino could easily break free. He did not try, though he also did not try to cling to Ink's broken fingers. Ink looked to the save screen and, to his shock, realized he could see through it to the outside world of Aftertale Neutral and hear bits of muffled conversations. It was only a small area by the Judgment Hall, but it was something. In hindsight, it made sense that Gino could see out to some extent. Ink buried those revelations for now and focused on his determination. It was not far, just a small jump away. They could make it. Ink did not know what had happened next. All he knew was that the black background had been replaced with colors, life, and startled shouts. The full brunt of Ink's injuries struck him all at once, leaving him to shudder in agonized silence on the street. The colors were blinding after the darkness of the save screen, so Ink laid his head back on the sidewalk beneath him and closed his eye sockets. He was so tired. No, don't fall asleep! Gino made such a pained noise that Ink's eye socket snapped back open. He was in Aftertale Neutral? Then he must be shielded then. Ink kept silent, even when Gino scooped him up, hoodie and all. The movement jostled his injuries, and his vision startled, going dark. Gino turned to the crowd of monsters who stood and stared at two blood-stained and injured Sanses in shock. Perhaps it was their surprise, or perhaps they expected somebody else to provide assistance. Either way, no one stepped forward to help. Corfrisk! Corfrisk! We need you to get to the Omega timeline, Gino begged. No one appeared. No one stepped forward. They seemed frozen with surprise and horror, maybe? Ink's vision was too dim for him to see their expressions. The shadows seemed to cover their faces, reminding him far too much of the unfinished faceless sketches of back there. He turned his head to hide it in Gino's shirt instead. He was supposed to do something with Gino's codes. Ink tried to remember, but everything was growing faint. In contrast to Ink's quiet whispers of breath, Gino's breathing grew louder. The pixels over his eye flickered and faded, revealing a melting eye socket, and he desperately pleaded with the watching crowd. Where's the closest hospital? He's a healer, so he managed to stabilize himself, but please, he needs help. Hey! Corfrisk appeared in front of a flower shop and held the door open. This way! The inside of the door did not show a flower shop. Ink saw white and weakly struggle in Gino's hold before he realized the doorway did not lead back there. It led somewhere that might be worse for him at this point. Too late, Ink understood what was happening. No. Carrying Ink in his faded blue hoodie, Gino hurried through the door. There was a brief feeling of weightlessness before they stepped onto solid stone once more. Thousands of doors floated behind them, and the white sky immediately confirmed their new location. Ink's body began to violently shake. Corfrisk smiled anxiously at them but they seemed distracted. Welcome to the Omega timeline, Gino, healer. They waved frantically at Metaton. Alphys and Undine in medical uniforms rushed up to help them. I'm taking you both to the hospital. Stay calm, stay calm, stay calm. Oh, stars, this can't be happening. Ink was in the Omega timeline. They knew he was a healer. He was wearing a brown scarf-like prism, and so many other Protector Inks did. How long would it take for him to be identified as the Protector, Arc, or both? Someone tried to touch Ink, but he instinctively clung to Gino, his fingers gripping weakly at his red scarf. Gino stepped back and glared at the medic as his eyelight flashed blue and red in warning. With that expression, Ink could see how Gino could become an heir. Rather than frighten him, the thought made him feel safe. The paramedic Metaton remained calm, raising his hand slightly as he stepped back. I apologize for startling you, darlings. My name is Medic. I only want to help you. Medic Metaton. Ink might have giggled at the wordplay if he was not on the verge of passing out from his injuries and the stress. I'm fine, Gino growled, and Ink heard echoes of errors. Ink heard error. Oh my god. Ink heard echoes of error in his voice.
See, this is what I'm talking about. He's an asshole. He's an asshole at heart. Let him be an asshole.
Fucking dead. Okay. Ink was so far gone that he almost had a soul attack when Gino called him by the nickname that Prism gave him. It took him a moment to recall that Corfrisk had picked the nickname first, likely because of Gino's comment about Ink's role. Gino did not correct Corfrisk. Was it because of Ink's unease about sharing his name? It was such a small thing, but in the Omega timeline itself, it meant so much. Ink must truly be desperate to cling to Gino like he was one of his brothers instead of a stranger he just met. Brothers! Maybe it was because Gino had seen Ink and was cold and wrapped him up in his hoodie like Killer had after a nightmarish negative tale. Maybe it was because Ink could see in Gino what Air could have been to him, a guardian, a brother, if things had gone differently. Or maybe it was because Ink hoped that someone would notice and care if he vanished inside the Omega timeline and was whisked off to the scientist's lab. Please don't leave me, Ink pleaded. I'm not, Gino said darkly, glaring at the paramedics. Medics stayed calm. The medics carrying a stretcher did too, though they hung further back next to Clore Frisk. They were all used to dealing with frightened, angry patients, most of whom had just survived horrible attacks by Air or the gang. Ink was in the enemy's territory, the one place that Corrupted wanted him to find, that Corrupted knew about anyway. The Doodle Sphere remained secret and safe. The Omega Timeline's code felt darker and more solid on his bones than before, like they had been purposely tattooed and colored so they could be even more noticeable. Some part of Ink's mind decided that it was understandable to have a full-blown panic attack. The rest of him agreed that his body felt like it had shut down. Ink lay quietly in Gino's arms, completely still except for his eyelids, which were small, faded pinpricks of light. He's going into shock. Medic's voice grew sharp. Sir, let us help him. Gino reluctantly let him take Ink. Ink desperately clung to his shirt as he was transferred to a stretcher. Gino easily could have stepped back and let Ink's fragile grip fall away. Instead, he held onto his hands and hurried alongside the stretcher, breathing sharp. Corfrisk ran alongside them. Sans, Medic began. I'm Gino, and I'm not going to get any worse, Gino said aggressively. Medic nodded and focused on Ink. He's a healer, correct? Did he take anything? Gino struggled. He directed me in giving him this, damn it. It was a painkiller injection, a clear liquid. I don't remember the name. Started with a B and ended with an I think. I-L. He also used green magic on his skull and neck. A lot of his bones are cut or broken. Likely.
Shut up, Gino! Shut up! Shut up! Gino! Don't say green magic, you idiot!
Maybe he's like pointing it out to be like he's literally innocent, guys. Guys, he's literally innocent.
I don't care. This is the part where Gino starts to annoy me as soon as they get into the fucking Omega timeline. Shut the fuck up, Gino!
Maybe it's because he knows that healers are important and shouldn't be harmed.
Doesn't matter.
And mentioning
shut
that
up, Gino!
he's a healer.
Oh my god, shut up, Gino! Keep your mouth shut, dude.
I'm fucking dead.
Medic said instantly. Start a scan. We'll have to make sure the anesthesia doesn't conflict. Did he eat anything recently? Gino didn't know. Ink could not answer. It was a terrifying experience to listen to medics speak to each other and know exactly what they were saying. Ink had used up too much energy to feel even more frightened as his vision slowly darkened. He laid his head back on the stretcher and silently passed out again. Drink.
Drink. You know what I want? I want drink as well.
I know you do, Rosa. I know.
I want drink. I want drink. I want drink and eat content now.
Everyone, go make a drink fanfic.
Dude, I'm literally about to draw, like, small announcement. I'm crafting up a very slow burn drink fanfiction, just so you guys know. That's gonna come out soon. Yay! Because I'm so desperate, and there's nothing out there! I have to do it myself.
Why don't you commission writers to do it?
Because I want it for free.
Clearly, someone's not desperate enough.
Also, all the people that have, like, commissions open for writing in this fandom, like, friends. So,
yeah.
No.
Never mind. Never mind.
Gino was in a hospital bed. He was in a hospital bed in the Omega timeline. He was in a hospital bed in the Omega timeline, able to see the green, lively park outside of his hospital window, and he wasn't melting. He was still alive. Gino could sleep. Then he could wake up, and then he could still be here out of the save screen. Gino could not sleep. He never took his sentry duty too seriously before, but now? Now he acted as a silent, wary guard for the Sands in the other hospital bed. Oh, what? Where am I? Oh, God, sorry. It had been forever since Gino was in a hospital, but he was pretty certain that it wasn't normal for a waking patient and a critical one to be in the same room after the latter's surgery. He was certain that the monochrome child, Cora Frisk, had pulled some strings to allow them to room together. They stayed just long enough to do that before parting. Gino supposed Cora Frisk had other places to be. They had seemed rather distracted. Maybe the doctors were so accommodating because they knew Gino would not stay in bed otherwise. He did leave a strong impression when he managed to stop the doctors and nurses from throwing out Ink's scarf and satchel. Medical professionals in the Omega timeline were probably used to stances that were overly protective of scarves, so they let him keep Ink's possessions instead of disposing of the blood-stained garments. They even salvaged Gino's hoodie, which he hesitantly took back. Ink's items were on the table next to Gino's bed. Their owner was still sedated. 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 The doctors all said Ink was going to be all right, or Healer, as Cora Frisk had called him. Gino was pretty sure that was not his actual name. He was certain that it was Ink. He swore that he'd also heard someone call him Ark. Fucked! It was all pretty confusing.
Shut the fuck up, Gino!
Gino's view of the world outside of the save screen had been limited to a small piece of aftertale. With only bits of images and voices filtering through the darkness he had been trapped in. He was not an omnipresent being that could see everything that happened while he was stuck in place. Gino was here now. He was out. So why did he feel so melancholic, angry? He knew why. I trusted Frisk not to reset, and look where that got everyone. They ended up right back in the underground with a neutral ending just because the kids thought it was more interesting to have an aftertale neutral be open to the multiverse instead of open to the surface. So much for their promises, huh? Gino really wanted to throw something. It was a novel concept to even have something around to throw. He only realized that he had grabbed Ink's satchel when he was about to chuck it at the wall. He immediately regained his senses. He immediately regained his senses and hastily dropped the bag. The edge of the flap for the main section caught on his hands and reacted to his magic, unlocking. The satchel fell open, spilling the contents of his large pouch across the table. Gino swore and hastily picked them up, placing them back inside. He was surprised Ink's snake pets hadn't gone after him again for that one. They must be hiding in his scarf to avoid detection. The contents of the satchel further proved Ink's role as a healer. There were bandages, tweezers, safety pins, gauze, cleansing wipes, antiseptic creams, and several other emergency supplies. Most would not have helped much with his deep lacerations and bones. Gino remembered the ruins that remained of Ink's clothes and wondered what other gear had been torn off him when he was attacked. Then he chose not to think about it more before he made himself feel nauseous and sadder and angrier. Stars. It was a miracle that Ink was still alive. Many senses would have dusted at that point. He kept returning items to the satchel, awkwardly doing his best to sort them into medical and not medical, or his best guesses at least. He hoped Ink would not think he purposely picked through his stuff. One thing that caught his attention were the extra clothes, specifically a purple cloak, silver tunic, and pants. They were piled with a black shirt, bound pleated pants, and golden circlet with a moon emblem, but it was the cloak that drew Gino's attention the most. He held it up and tried to fold it, noting how it looked familiar. Hadn't he seen a Sans with this cloak in Marketdale? Huh, that must have been Ink. Once the outfits were folded neatly and returned to the satchel, Gino checked around the table and floor for any more items. He spotted a gray flower and curiously picked it up, inspecting it. What is... Too late, he realized it was a gray ectoflower. Its petals shifted as he spoke. Oh no. He could only hope that he had not just recorded over a message from one of Ink's loved ones. If he had an echo flower with Papyrus' voice and lost it, he'd be devastated. There was a Papyrus back in Aftertale Neutral, but Gino could not look at him and see his brother. Their timelines were too different now. Gino miserably watched the petals react to his voice and his shoulders slumped. Great going, idiot. All you do is screw up, huh? The gray echo flower answered, I do not know you. I do not know you, but I have to disagree with that assessment. Please do not put yourself down. Aster, my beloved. He just hears some random ass voice through a flower of his friends, and he immediately tries to comfort them.
Because he's perfect and amazing and wonderful and beautiful.
I love him dearly. Anyway. Gino jumped so badly that he nearly dropped the gray echo flower. He grabbed onto the stem just in time and gaped at it, wondering if he had finally lost it. He put together that this was not a normal echo flower and felt his cheeks burn. Wow, it really had been a long time since that happened, for a reason other than his body melting due to determination. Is this some kind of communication flower? Indeed it is. My friend my friend has one. Do you have one as well? Would you tell me who you are? The voice sounded like a Gaster's. Maybe sorry. Maybe it had been a while since Gino heard a Gaster. Maybe it had been a while since Gino heard a Gasper. This possible Gaster also lacked a haughty tone a lot of Gasters had. Or maybe Gino had just had the bad luck of seeing too many egotistical scientists through his viewpoint at the save screen. It was a good thing that he had a view, or the he. It was a good thing he had that view, or he might have gone even more bonkers from the isolation. Gino held the gray echo flower awkwardly. I'm Gino. I don't have my own flower. This might be your friend's. I see. My name is Aster. How did you get this flower? Gino winced. To tell the truth, I knocked over Ink's bag. I accidentally talked to the flower and well, you answered. I'm just glad it wasn't a message from his brother or something. There was a pause before Aster replied. Did you just call him Ink? Yeah?
Shut up, Gino! Gino! Shut the fuck up!
He doesn't
Shut-
know, Rosa!
Shut the
Rosa
fuck up!
doesn't
Gino,
know!
keep your fucking mouth shut. Gino,
He doesn't
please.
know. How does he know? How would he know?
He's a Sanj. You would think he would be a little bit more suspicious and not, tell just such open secrets without,
How?
confirmation.
We know their secrets.
I'm gonna kill him!
He doesn't know shit. Oh my god.
Oh my god, shut the
Where
fuck
this one?
up! Shut up!
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, he told me this. His. Yeah. Well, he told me his name is Ink, but some of the people around here have been calling him Healer because of a mix-up. Gino frowned. I swear I heard this one Undyne call him Arc, though. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. His lack of knowledge about much of the multiverse continued to agitate him. Exactly, Rosa. He doesn't know.
Doesn't
He doesn't know.
matter! He's an idiot!
He hated being in the dark. He's an idiot for not knowing.
Yes!
How would he know? He was trapped.
Oh
in the
my
fucking
god!
Aster was silent. He was silent for so long that Gino wondered if the connection had turned off. The flower petals hummed before he could set it down. Is Ink all right? Oh, geez. Was this Ink's dad? Aster had said Ink was his friend, but he could be downplaying their connection while he tried to figure out if Gino had hurt his kid. Gino freely admitted that he may also assume the worst if some stranger used Papyrus's phone. And now Gino had to tell Aster that Ink was in the hospital after being beaten within an inch of his life. Oh boy. Ink is alive. He was hurt. We're both in the hospital. That sounded bad. It was bad, but Gino did not want to scare Aster. But he's fine. They're keeping him sedated for now. Okay, so maybe Gino's social skills needed some work. That was probably the worst way to tell Aster his kid had been hurt. In his defense, he had not talked to anyone in literal years. He had also had a slash across his chest for literal years, so his attitude towards injuries might be a bit skewed from the norm. Gino heard something in the background like someone else in the room had spoken. Aster had not been alone. Oh, whoops. Yes, thank you both. Aster sounded harried and out of breath. There was a rustling sound like he was hastily putting something away. Which alternate universe are you in? I'm currently in the Omega timeline, but I can be there within a few hours. The tight feeling in Gino's chest eased a little at those words. That made things easier. We're in a hospital here. Haven Meadow Medical Center. What a tongue twister. He debated a moment whether his next request would be uncomfortable before he forged ahead. His outfit got pretty torn up, but he has his purple cloak and brown scarf. I made sure the doctor didn't throw it out. The scarf, I mean. I'm not sure what he'd
Shut up! Shut up! You idiot! Oh!
Aster inhaled sharply, interrupting him. There was definitely a gasp in the background. Wait, was that an Alfie? Brown scarf? Oh, stars. Gino had a sinking feeling that he was missing some important context. What? Please do not leave Ink alone, Aster begged. Gino could hear rapid footsteps in the background as he ran. Don't let anyone take him either. I'm on my way. Got it. Gino's discomfort and confusion faded to the back of his mind, and he kept a wary eye light on the closed hospital door.
He did not know why Aster was so afraid. He did not know Ink very well or why someone might be after him. But like hell, he was going to let someone else go down again. Someone else down again.
Well,
Even
you just
after-
did. Well,
He
you just
doesn't
fucking
know! Rosa, he doesn't understand. He doesn't know what's wrong. He doesn't know why Ink not being called Ink is important. How would he know?
Also, I don't
How
think
would
I'll
he
have
know?
enough time to read this chapter because we talk so much.
I know.
Oopsie daisy.
This might be it for this stream.
Yeah. But the next
Y'all
stream
get-
will start in around 45 minutes, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
We're gonna take a short break, get set up for that, all that stuff, and we'll be back with the Poppy Playtime stream. Next Saturday, we will be back with 4 chapters as per usual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leaving
And you
y'all on a
guys get-
cliffhanger again.
Everyone read Spilled Ink. Let me.
I don't. Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
so
that too.
excited. I'm sorry.
We have a total of 20 more chapters left. How does that make you feel, Beetle?
Oh my god.
Like,
20 more
we're-
chapters.
So if like we spread that out, if we do
We're-
4 chapters for each Saturday,
We'll be finished within like a month or two.
that's gonna be so emotional. It's gonna be so sad.
We're crying.
But we're gonna probably
Like legit.
last 4 chapters are gonna make us actually saw our eyes out because not even just because we're gonna be finished, but we're gonna be finished with the whole series.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start another
Oh,
fic.
No, don't even talk about it. I'm getting.
Maybe we'll start another fic.
Yeah.
If
I
people
wouldn't mind that.
people love this series, so I don't want to read I would only read completed fics.
Yeah. I get that. Me too. Me too. Because you never know when an author just goes like, you know what? I'm not finishing this ever again.
I mean, they have a pretty good track record with finishing it, so.
They do, but you never know. What if they die?
Don't
Like,
say that!
unexpectedly.
I hope not!
I'm saying in general, like an author. I'm saying in general, not specifically Buddy.
Please, no.
That's why I don't like reading unfinished fics that much, unless I'm like down to scraps.
Maybe it'll be completed by then, hopefully, but do you think it can get completed in a month, Beetle?
No.
Okay. So no, that's probably not gonna happen.
No.
But, I mean, I think this is a great time for me to advertise my Tumblr.
Yeah.
If
Let me get on
you
that.
guys have any completed long-form fics that you would want us to read post FTFO, you can
That are
suggest them.
appropriate.
Most likely won't really be reading a lot of fics that have like ships in them because not a lot of people like them. Also, I've come to make an announcement. Roseverse is going to be opening up an Ask blog pretty soon on Tumblr. And I'm going to explain it once it actually opens up, but the gist of it is that every 2 weeks, the group that you get to ask questions to changes because there's so many like characters. The first feature would be the Horror Tale family. For the first 2 weeks of Ask that would come out. So, follow my Tumblr, because, once that comes out, I'm gonna be, like, reposting all of it on my main. I'm not gonna say what the second group will be, but yeah, every 2 weeks, I'm gonna be answering questions for whatever duo or family or group or whatever. I have the first couple in my mind. So, highly suggest you follow my Tumblr. Send me ask of any long-term fics that you would want us to read when FTFO is over. We only have 20 more chapters to do. That's crazy. 20 more chapters.
20. I don't like that number.
Why?
I just don't like the number 20. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. So yeah. So, really exciting. I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm gonna get Tumblr now.
excited.
Any asks that I also post. So I also want to say before I go, the Ask blog is not needed to understand the Roseverse fanfiction. It's gonna be like additional stuff. You're gonna see dynamics that are not really covered a lot. And and like interactions between that. Because like with the Horror chapter, you can still ask the Bad Sanses. Actually, no. The one thing I want to also say is that the Ask blog does align with the current chapters that are out. So you will not be getting information of how the characters will interact in the future. So with the Horror one, you are not going to be able to ask Horror's opinion on any of the Bad Sanses because he has not met them yet, besides one.
I'm literally excited.
And so until that chapter drops, you will not be able to get any interactions of the characters from that. So it does align with the fanfic, but it does not include additional information that you might need for like certain plot points and stuff like that. It'll have like fun stuff. It'll have like dynamics you never heard about, fun facts. It will also have like in-depth stuff that will never get covered in the fanfiction. But it will not have to be like you have to read the fic and you have to read every single one of the Ask blogs. You don't have to consume the Ask blog at all if you don't want to. You just have to consume the fanfiction to understand anything of Roseverse. So, and the prequel. Just the stuff on my AO3. So, keep that in mind. It's just for fun. You will not be able to ask any questions about the Bad Sanses just yet, because again, we have not released Chapter 7. So, Horror does not know about the Bad Sanses besides one. So it's just gonna be him interacting with his family, and you get his daily life. So yeah. That'll be really, really fun. Yippee! Alright, so that's all I wanted to say. We'll be back in around, like 40-ish minutes with Poppy Playtime.
We always come back.
We
Real.
always come back. Alright, bye.